do hope so. Yes. Hello. Oh my god, what's wrong with my camera? Hang on, I'll turn my camera off for a minute. Hang on. Hello, everyone. Sorry, my camera's being silly buggers. Yes. Anyway, are we going to be on with No Justice of the MTGs in just a moment? It'll be. I mean, I was about to say it's going to be a fun time, but it won't be, obviously, because we're watching Laura Koonsberg, so it'll be fucking awful. But hopefully, added nonsense, is adds something of worth and value to the piece. Hopefully. Yeah, oh, for fuck's sake, yes, I'll sign into the fucking BBC iPlayer. God, I hate the world so much. Yes, I have a Why does it ask me if I have a TV license when I could just lie? I could obviously just fucking lie. Like, oh... God, I hate the world so fucking much, man. So, yes. Been to the football today. It was very nice. 4-0 win for Birmingham City Football Club. It was rather good. And congratulations also to Liverpool FC on winning the Premier League. Rather deservedly. They've been consistently the best team of the season. Yeah, so well done there. And well done to As Friends Rust for Man City getting to the FA Cup final as well. It's been a good day for the channel, I think, in that respect. Anyway, well, I was thinking, wow, she's late, but I mean, I haven't even fucking sent her the thing. By the way, I don't know why you would. After this fucking start, I don't know why anyone would give me money, but you can.
Get some help.
You can do that. Thank you to Phantom of Black for resubscribing for 27 months. Friend and Bear. No, bears are friends. No, they're not. Oh, shit, I don't know. Hello there, my Bulgarian bulldog. Yeah, we're just going to go with that. Yes, you can do bits messages, subs, what else can you do? Memberships, super chats. All of these things are available to you, as I'm sure you're well aware. But in case you weren't, I'm told that you're supposed to remind people, because people are forgetful. Don't think there's any doubt about that. How has your Saturday/Sunday been, chat? No, don't take my advice on bears very seriously. I want friends to be bears to be friends, but unfortunately they are a bit bitey and a bit scratchy.
Good to see you as well, Charlie. How you doing? And hello, Kev.
Oi, oi. How are we getting on?
I'm not too bad. Just come back from having a pub dinner, which was nice. How about you?
Yeah, well, I got back from the football and had a little sleep. So that's been my day, basically.
Love a little nap. Love a little nap.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, how was I presume you played Magic the Gathering. You usually do.
I did play. I lost a lot of games of Magic, but I had fun, so I don't really mind. And always happy to go to the pub afterwards as well.
Fair dues, fair dues. Yeah. So how have things been? It's been an interesting time, hasn't it?
It's been.
Graham Linehan might be getting the executioner's chair. I think that's the punishment for harassment, isn't it? I think so. I don't know.
Harassment and criminal damage, right?
Yeah. So definitely he's getting killed then. Yeah.
Oiled like a baby.
For legal reasons,
yeah.
legal reasons, I am doing a joke.
this is facetious, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, according to Viv, when she was talking about it on Twitter, she was saying that the victim was a child at the time of the first incident.
Oh god, what a Nonce bastard, man! Fucking hell! Why are you going after babbies? It's fucking weird.
I mean,
It's very weird, man. Oh god. Anyway. We should get on Viv to talk about it at some point, but anyway.
I mean, she knows more about this than I do, so I
Yeah.
do not have I do not have the full information.
She
of
is
the court.
she is very much a cheese graterlessness correspondent. Yes.
True,
Yeah.
very true, very true. Yes, I don't have any information on this, so I can't really make my own.
And I
personal
love that it's whenever he's like in the headlines, it's Father Ted co-creator. Like, motherfucker, you are only known for a thing that ended 30 years ago. Well, 25 years ago, whatever. Like, fucking hell. That's really embarrassing. Like, also, that's not what he's even known for anymore. He's known for creating an electronic device of his own loneliness. That's all he's done.
He's known as being the third most divorced man on Twitter.
Yeah, no, he went into podium place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
so, you know, fair play. You know. Although, not surprising that he came before a lot of other people. Anyway, where are we? Sorry, yes. Thank you to James Holmes for being a member for 10 months on the YouTube. Much love. Thank you, Says Thomas, for 6 months of subscriberinoing. We're on a hype train. If we get to level 2 of the hype train, I don't know, I'll finger something.
Glenna's self-respect?
Yeah, I think I've probably done that one before, but that hasn't stopped me breaking in a finger in Stalin many times, so, you know. Yeah.
Who's the second most divorced place behind Musk? Oh, it's absolutely Lawrence Fox.
Oh, but Kanye's got to be in there. You can't miss Kanye out. He's got a new album out, and it mentions the word Hitler is in 2 titles. Literally 2 songs have the word Hitler in it, and one of them is called Free Diddy.
Literally, honestly, he's literally become like Jeremy from Peep Show. Like, I'm not, no, super handsome from Peep Show. So I'm trying to
we need to call
a club called Free the Pedos.
Yeah, we need to make a strong political statement. Do we? Are you sure?
Do we? Well, can we call it something normal, like the Swan and Tomato? How about compromise, mate? Swan and pedo.
That's what I love about that show. There's a fucking... rather than calling the character David or Philip or something, they went Super Hands as the name of a character.
His name is revealed to be Simon in the last series as well.
Yeah, but he said Super Hands. And he's got 2 kids that are German, maybe?
They were 4 years ago. So a couple of 8 years, I reckon.
Oh, fucking hell. Anyway, yeah, so if you want to help out on the hype train, you know what to do. Bits and sobs and all that jazz. And also go and check out No Justice's channel and give them money as well.
You can do that if you really, really want to.
Yeah. You didn't see that tweet, did you? What tweet, Kieran? Has there been a tweet? Oh, God, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so did you know that yet another accuser of Jeffrey Epstein has committed suicide?
Has committed suicide?
I definitely believe this to be true, and don't think at all that the Royal Hit Squad has been out again.
No, I do not. I am not making any accusations at all, even close to that.
No.
Not a single accusation of that.
But I am going to say he's a pederast. I am just going to say that, and if he wants to sue me, please do. I would be very happy to see you in court, you sweaty cunt. Anyway, yeah, that happened this week. R.I.P. to her. She deserved a lot better than life gave to her. There you go.
Yeah, very, very true, very true, very true. And again, but of course, you know, rape accusations will ruin a man's career.
True, yeah. Within a week of him being rehabilitated, and he's now going to church with the royals and all the rest of it, you know. Almost as if him being blatantly outed as a rapist and pederast had no impact on his life, fundamentally. You know. What's this?
I mean, the fact that Cunt and the Gang literally released a song called Prince Andrew's a Sweaty Nonce, and you know, the fact that there hasn't been litigation around that should tell you something.
Yeah. Oh God, Graham Lennon saying, "Yeah, please explain how women quote unquote nut." Right. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that
you said it. You said it, Glenna. You said it, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will need money for the lawsuit because he's definitely going to sue me because he wants that fucking smoke. Definitely. He wants that dredged up in the media. Just to reiterate, when that inevitable claim happens, I am not suicidal. If anything happens to me, I was killed. Anyway, we'll visit you in prison, Kev. I'm not going to prison. I'm going to the fucking morgue. Jesus Christ, you're joking. They're obviously going to kill me. They killed Diana, for fuck's sake.
Coming back for more.
Fuck it. In for a penny, in for a pound. Eh? Oh yeah, you interviewed Jimmy the Giant as well.
Yeah,
Which
it was good fun. He's
cool.
really nice guy.
Yeah.
Really nice guy.
Look at you getting all the big guests in.
He reached out to me as well. It was
Really? Oh, nice. Oh, that's fucking dope. See, you're going places. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And when we were having a conversation, he was like, "Well, I spoke to Gary." He was like, "Oh, I spoke to Gary Stevenson 2 days ago," and I was like, "Well, someone's been getting friends in high places."
Well, of course, yeah. Well, you know, just a cheeky little flex. Yeah, I was just chatting with Gary, you know, as you do. Should we watch? Oh God, Laura fucking Koonsberg.
Award-winning, whoa, award-winning journalism. I think you'll find.
Award-winning journalism. But there is at least a tiny green queen.
The tiny green queen, you know.
Yeah.
Who has a far more forthright position on the Supreme Court judgment and the EHRC statutory interim statutory guidance.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to it, I guess. Yeah.
Unlike other members of the Green Party.
Yes. Well, again, we'll get to that.
Yep.
Get the ballot box back out. The first big test for Labour since its massive win is upon us. It's up against 4 other parties, all vying to...
Why have they got him stood there with a fucking chopper? That's mental. What the fuck? Okay, that is an
My
editorial
plan for
choice.
health service is to hack it to pieces.
Yeah, twat the ripper.
to get ahead in Thursday's election with a dizzying array of contest, council seats, mayors and 1 MP. Pat McFadden was one of the architects
why
of
have they
Labour's...
dug up this corpse? Jesus Christ. Why do they keep putting this creature in front of cameras? This walking sedative. Why is he here?
I mean, again, I think you'll find that these are the election whisperers in the Starmer Politburo. They're the election whisperers. They know exactly what the public want to see, and they want to see a man who literally, like a negative charisma. He is like a black hole, a charisma black hole where the space-time continuum warps around his lack of charisma.
Maybe they're spring cleaning the crypt or something, and he just has to get out for an evening. I don't know.
Summer success, and he's with us this morning alongside the Lib Dems. Ed
Outside
Davey,
again.
I
busy chasing
tell you
votes,
what.
and
Mrs. Nosferatu has having a ladies' night in, and so Pat McFadden needs to make way.
That's fair. That's fair, dude. Yeah, are they ever going to invite Ed Davey into the studio? Who knows? But he's got a lovely back garden. Bless
I wonder how much background noise is going to interrupt this interview.
Hopefully a lot. That would be very funny.
Kevin Hollingrake with us from the Conservatives, who are trying to avoid disaster. But there's time for some Sunday sparkle. We'll hear from a pair of stars, Jack Lowden and Martin Freeman, on their new stage outing together.
It takes a lot for me to do a play. It takes a lot, because it's a big commitment, it's a huge commitment. And I really, really have to love it. And
who gives the slightest fuck? Why is this on the TV?
It's not like there's been a terrorist attack in Kashmir or a ceasefire in the Congo or anything like that. No. We need to talk to some actors about how much fun they're having.
What we need is a guy from The Office to talk about nothing. Just absolutely fucking nothing.
Also, thank you, Lucas Lupine, for the 20 gift. That's incredibly generous of you.
Like they at least occasionally they get in Ray fines to do some NIMBY shit. But this isn't even politics. This is just no. Actually, I like doing a play every now and then. You couldn't find any TV work. The fucking Hobbit movies have dried up. You've had to go to the stage. We know it's the life cycle of the actor. Deal with it. Why is it in a fucking politics show? It's not. I don't even know who the other guy is. Fuck it.
And I just did. I thought, oh damn, they got me.
And welcome to our team at the desk this week. Carla Denyer, the co-leader of the Green Party, and a pair of mayors.
Who I presume she sat in a hole or something? How is this? Is she the same species as these two other creatures? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Also, Ben Houchen was literally saying there should be a Tory reform pact yesterday.
Yeah.
That's another Tory who said there should be one, given that Reform UK are absolutely not doing one. To the point where Anne Widdecombe literally described the Tories as losers, saying we're not teaming, we refuse to team up with losers, which I think is really funny.
When you're getting dunked on by a literal virgin, oh my god, that's
literally,
bad.
yeah. And she was wearing a stripy top, which I think it's the same one where Charlie Brooker.
Yeah.
Where Charlie Brooker described her as looking like a relief map of the Himalayas.
Oh no! Oh, that's harsh. I'm not saying it's wrong though. Martin Freeman is in the Black Panther films. I was only joking. Fucking hell! I was just doing a bit. Like I don't give a fuck about Martin Freeman's career. No offense, he seems like a nice guy, but I don't care. It's if I wanted to see that, I'd go and watch a film show or something. This is supposed to be politics, right? Why is he on here? It's not politics.
Labour's Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham and the Conservative Tees Valley Mayor Ben Houchen. Morning. Let's start, as we always do, by what's making the news today. And the front pages and the headlines everywhere dominated, as you'd expect, by the funeral of Pope Francis. An incredible image on the front of the Sunday Times there. St. Peter's Square in Rome from above.
Go on.
So you're telling me the Pope's still dead?
Well, I mean, given that it was on Easter, I did have to wait 3 days to make sure that he wasn't coming back. That's the thing with Catholics; they could come back to life. Apparently, that's how it works. So you're gonna make sure.
Just very surprised. I'd not heard at all that he was still dead in the last like 6 minutes.
True. No, JD Vance has still killed him. Yes, that is absolutely true. Did you see the "fuck, marry, kill" meme going around?
No.
So it was a JD Vance "fuck, marry, kill," and it was fuck and a picture of a couch, marry and a picture of his wife, and kill and a picture of the Pope. Incredible. Delightful. Thank you, Kieran Saunders says, put some respect on Jack Loudon. He is brilliant in Slow Horses and married to Saoirse Ronan. Is I think how you're supposed to pronounce that. I should be. As an Irish person, I would have my passport taken from me, I think. Anyway, I don't fucking care. Kieran, I don't care.
The Sunday Mirror headlines, hope among the tears at the funeral, with the Sun pointing out 2 different images, the ceremony and the transfer...
Who gives a fuck? Old King Pedo died. Why is this a fucking front page story now? I don't give a fuck. They'll put another old pedo lover in there. It's what?
Well, I mean, at the very least, one of them... I mean, the important thing about the story is that one of them could be Pier Battista Pizzaballa.
Which, again, is just the most J.K. Rowling Italian character pilled name ever. But there we go. One of them could be black or possibly Filipino as well, which I get ready for DEI Pope if that happens, because they're not racist at all, these people. No, don't be silly. Yeah.
Diplomacy, with that picture of President Trump and President Zelensky deep in conversation. The New Look Observer brands that the Pope's last act of peace, and the Sunday Telegraph also uses another version of that image, but picking up on Trump's seeming shift in attitude to Vladimir Putin, at least for now.
Yeah, but Trump's talking...
Here at the BBC...
I guarantee Trump's talking about golf. There's no way he's talking about anything else. Zelensky's like, oh, we need missiles and stuff, and he's like, no, I'll tell you what you need to do to play out of a sand trap. You know, I mean, look, he's just doing one of those.
The website's leading with what is a developing story, an attack in Vancouver where a number of people have been killed. There have been extraordinary scenes from the Vatican in the last couple of days, and here
It is interesting watching Trump's brain just kind of learn about the Ukraine situation just by osmosis as being president. Like, literally did not know a single thing about the Ukraine conflict at all.
No.
Up until the point where he became the president. Just continued saying, yeah, I'll fix that shit. How? Don't know. We'll do it. We'll fix it. I'll fix the thing. And then gets into government. It's like, oh, hang on, this is tough. But Putin said he liked me, but then I had a meeting and he wasn't nice to me, so now I dislike him. It's
Literally, look,
quite
he's
funny.
behind the scenes. He's now admitting that it's more difficult than he thought it was. I mean, well done, just bravo. Look, did he
funny.
genuinely think he could solve that in one day?
Yeah, almost certainly thought.
The lack of imposter syndrome. Look, he's got anti-imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah,
like,
literally
he just
reverse.
thinks he's so much better than everybody else that he can just do. He can just do it in a way that no one else possibly could. Like tweeting out Vladimir stop. It honestly might be the saddest thing I've ever seen a world leader do. It's the saddest, most pathetic, forlorn, flailing idiocy. Vladimir,
Honestly,
stop!
I think it's what's really funny to me is that the idea that Russia would annex eastern Ukraine was literally being floated by KGB or ex-KGB agents and Russian spies to Paul Manafort, the person who ran Trump's 2016 election campaign.
Yeah.
And at no point did anyone think that they would tell Donald Trump what was going on. He's literally Jar Jar Binks. That's what he is.
He really is. He really fucking is.
They just no, let's not tell Donald because we know he'll just say shit because he has no filter either, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll do all the dirty work of conspiring in the background, and Trump will just get him to do what he wants to do. Fuck it.
And it doesn't matter because his fan base is so rabidly ridiculous that they'll just go along with whatever.
Apart from vaccines, it's the only thing
maybe,
his voter base won't actually care. I think won't agree with him on. Yeah. Remember when he said that everyone should take the vaccine? I am the one who's responsible for Operation Warp Speed. All his fans started booing him because they're too brain broken even for Trump.
True.
Are the live shots at the Vatican today? Large crowds gathering.
But that's not extraordinary at the Vatican. Whenever the Pope does a mass, it's like that. You get a big crowd. He gets the numbers in, you know.
Once more outside St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, in the internal city. Extraordinary images from there yesterday. Andy, I just wonder what went through your mind seeing them.
Yes, to be honest, the loss of Pope Francis hit me harder than I expected. He was certainly the most relevant and relatable Pope of my life, and the one who's...
I'm sorry, I think I might be going mad. The man at every turn defended pederasts. At every possible turn during a decades-long career. From Argentina to fucking Australia to the Vatican itself. Fucking Christ. Why we... Like, he said some nice... He said maybe they shouldn't kill all of the Palestinians. And we all supposed to fucking clap along like fucking seals. No,
yeah,
he was
like
a cunt.
being anti-genocide should be like the level 0 position.
Yeah.
The fact that this level 0 position is too much for many Western leaders is not showing you that the Pope is good. It means that Western leaders are fucking monsters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And like, they're also bombing churches and shit. So just out of self-preservation, the fact that he's one of the few Christian leaders who's like, maybe we shouldn't be supporting this, whereas other Christians are like, no, this is awesome, because they're brown people who attend those churches, so fuck them.
Seemed to live the Catholic social teaching that I learnt about in school, so he really connected. And I had the good fortune to meet him,
didn't you?
Yeah, with the Great Manchester delegation. And it was the most memorable experience and moving experience of my life. The thing is,
Really, of all the things you've done.
it was profoundly moving, and all of us felt that who were there with him, because he connected with every single person in the room. You know, something to sort of experience. The thing,
you know what you might also find moving? Talking to the victims of the many priests that he protected. Go and talk to the Argentine children who had their cases whitewashed because the powerful Catholic Church in Argentina, being run by Archbishop Bergoglio, to give him his real fucking name, covered it up. with the collusion of the Argentine police. Go and talk to those people about being raped by fucking priests. And having those priests sort of, Rubik's Cube style move to a different place so you can't see them anymore. That might have been quite moving for you as well, Andy, just a thought.
Is, I think the world has lost a really important voice, and the reason is we're living in a time when big tech is monetizing hate through social media platforms, and then you've got political and religious leaders almost playing along with that and polarizing people and firing up their bases. And that's why he was such an important voice, speaking for the poor, the marginalised, the underdog. That's what he did. And he was also about deeds, not words. He lived it as well. So few people do that these days. So I just hope that those...
Again, he used nicey words about the poor and lived in a fucking gold-plated mansion in the middle of Rome, ahead of one of the most corruptly, vastly wealthy organisations on earth. As, a HIV ravages sub-Saharan Africa that he could do something about and did nothing about. But, let's ring his arsehole even harder, shall we? Fucking hell.
Leaders gathered yesterday in St. Peter's Square reflected, perhaps they did when we see some of the images, perhaps they reflected on why, as Pope Francis, why was he so popular around the world and respected?
Fascinating to hear how much it meant to you. I can tell from watching you that's really genuine. And Ben, when you saw then those images of world leaders, this mixture of ceremony and diplomacy, what did you think?
Well, I think the Observer's front page is the Pope's last action of peace. I think sums it up fantastically. And Andy and I were just talking beforehand. We're both, to some extent, lapsed Catholics, and we've both, for whatever reason, gone to the Vatican. You on a delegation, I went personally, and it's a place that until you go to, it does have an impact on you, maybe as a lapsed Catholic, that you don't appreciate until you go there. And you see the scenes not just yesterday at the funeral, but today as well. This is going to affect millions and millions of people around the world, and it could affect nations, given the circumstances that occurred yesterday.
And Carla, it's rare, isn't it, that you see an event like that? There were 400,000 people said to be in Rome yesterday, something where genuinely people from right around the world come together in one place.
Yeah, an incredibly diverse event by all accounts, and for the last week as well. Now, I don't have the Catholic background that these two have, but I certainly have a lot of admiration
These
for
two
the way
papist
that he used
scum!
his position to try and tackle poverty, to tackle climate change. Very outspoken
I
about.
want to just point out that was a joke. I grew up a Catholic as well. I'm allowed to, okay? I literally served a fucking altar as a boy.
I mean, you get away with it if you're Irish, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's how it works.
About the society, humanity's impact on the environment and what we could do better, and also using his position to push for peace and the end to conflict, including notably in Gaza, but also in Sudan and South Sudan. So I have a lot of admiration for how he used his position to, I think, the best effect that he thought he could.
Imagine if Zelensky had got in his fatigues. True. True. I mean, I what Zelensky should have done, just for the shits and giggles of it, is he's asked directly for an apology for the Catholic Church's role in the rat lines, helping Nazis escape after the Holocaust. As a Jewish person, that might be something he could have done, and that would have been cool and good. But I think he mainly he wanted to get more weapons for the war that he's in. Fair enough, I guess.
So different ways of being a leader. We'll be back with you three a bit later in the programme. Let's talk a bit more then about that meeting between Presidents Trump and Zelensky at the Vatican yesterday. It was their first face-to-face encounter since their showdown in the Oval Office.
But look how fake it is. Like, that's not a meeting room. That's a photo op.
It's like the giant room, and they sit themselves like a fucking 2 feet away from each other.
True. Yeah, that is true. That's a bit weird. I don't think Trump likes people near him, though, does he?
In February, where voices were raised and
oh, Macron's there as well. Hello.
You can see there the incredibly intense-seeming conversation between the two. President Trump later said...
Oh, God, they got fucking gammon bollocks in there and all. Fucking hell. Look at him. Oh, God. Look at what the world has produced. The Anglo-Saxon nations of the world have produced these two fucking creatures. Trump and Starmer. That's the best we can do, is it? You know what? The Vikings should have killed all of them. I'm just saying.
And even then, like, the thing is, you also got Emmanuel Macron, somebody who literally does nothing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Was productive. Zelensky said it had the potential to become historic. And these other pictures, it seemed to show Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron almost trying to broker the conversation between the two men.
No, they weren't. They wanted a photo opportunity. Look at him. This fucking wanker just wants to be pictured next to the popular boy.
Like, what does Keir Starmer... Keir Starmer doesn't know what he's talking about on anything.
No.
Why do... No, show us the Morgan McSweeney pictures, BBC. Show us Morgan McSweeney talking with Vladimir Zelensky. We all knew that it happened.
Yeah.
They both had their own talks with Zelensky later. And hours after the informal talks, Donald Trump seemed to question whether Vladimir Putin is really interested in peace or had just been
Right, but this is what he does, because he's a fucking idiot. He talks to one person and then goes, oh, you know, I agree with that. Then talks to another person and goes, oh, you know, I agree with that.
Is it Joe Rogan?
Yeah, he's just a fucking idiot. He's just an idiot who smart people can manipulate. So he just agrees with whatever. Like, literally, you know, the best example was that of Erdogan, right? He wrote that letter to Erdogan saying, don't do this, otherwise we'll fucking destroy you, you piece of shit motherfucker, during his first term. And then he had a phone call with Erdogan, and 2 days later, right, so 2 days later he has this phone call with him, and all of a sudden he goes, yeah, you know what, you can invade northern Syria and just kill the Kurds. Brilliant.
Literally.
Art of the deal.
Honestly.
Fucking, he just, whatever is the last thing he fucking saw, he's a pigeon. He just pecks the last thing he saw and that's it.
tapping him along. Is that a change of tone from America? Well, let's ask Pat McFadden, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, very close ally of the Prime Minister. It's always good to have you with us. Keir Starmer was...
He looks like a decrepit baby bird.
He does.
Like one of those really scraggly, horrible motherfuckers who probably will be fine and healthy, but just when they're first born, they've got like 2 feathers and like I was about to say buck teeth, but they don't have teeth, obviously. But like, you know, he like just looks messed up. He looks like that, basically.
closely meeting with President Zelensky yesterday. After that meeting, after President Trump's latest comments, do you agree that a deal for peace could be very close, as the Americans said earlier this week?
Well, I hope so, if it's the right deal.
I'm already asleep.
The issue all along in this in recent months has been, yes, everybody wants a stop to the fighting in Ukraine, but what then? And for it to be lasting, what Ukraine wants more than anything is some kind of sense of security that President Putin can't just start this up again in 6 months, in a year, or whatever timescale. And that's why, alongside talk of the fighting stopping, our Prime Minister and other European leaders who are closer to this geographically see this real sense of a need for long-term security for Ukraine, so that we don't just have a stop to the fighting, but a lasting peace.
But these images in the last 24 hours do imply that there is some sense of progress. But should people watching be careful about seeing them, looking at the front pages and thinking they mean peace is on the way?
Well, look, they're a lot more encouraging than this scene that we saw in the Oval Office a couple of months ago, where I think everybody
nobody wants to see that.
Disturbed by that scene, and what a contrast yesterday. A welcome contrast.
To be fair, they were at a fucking funeral. Like, I think even Trump knows you don't start fucking around at a funeral. Like, I don't expect decorum from Trump in virtually any situation, but I think even he knows at a funeral you let it go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was the guy who walked in front of the Queen.
To be fair, that was the one base thing he ever did.
True. Absolutely.
Like, I have a lot of respect when a dickhead comes on and goes, "You don't speak until you're spoken to." I'm sorry, no, I think I fucking will. Actually, I'll say, "Hello, Elizabeth," or I suppose now,
right,
hello,
Lizzie.
Charles. Chuck,
Right, Lizzie.
You're right, Chuck, mate. How you getting on? You know what I mean? You give it one of them. How's the fingers? Oh, the swelling's gone down. Good stuff. You know, bit of banter.
The newspapers has described it as Pope Francis's last act. Just got a powerful statement, I think.
No, his last act was, "Oh, I've just shit myself." Was his last act, actually. Did you see him towards the end? He looked like a Bo Selector mask of himself. Just bloated and weird. It looked very strange.
I think, and if in, personalities matter and situations matter, and if in bringing those people together in that physical situation, perhaps a little bit stripped back from all the people around them and so on, and able to speak person to person, if that had a powerful impact, that's a very good thing.
Okay, well, we'll be monitoring that closely in the hours and days to come. Let's talk then about the elections that are coming this week. And we have, to help us out...
Yeah, his last act was, "J.D. Vance, why are you holding that knife?"
brought back none other than Professor Sir John Curtis. Who else? To help us understand the context of all the different contests coming on Thursday. During the general election, you probably remember, he summed up the landscape for us every week in 6...
Hang on, is he done? Is Pat McFadden done? Look, he barely said anything. He said like 3 sentences, didn't he?
I'm sure they're going to go back to him after they spoke to John Curtis, surely.
Well, I would have thought so. Like, there's no point rousing him from his fucking 1,000-year sleep. I mean, I suppose they've got to vacuum the coffin at some point, but,
60 seconds on Sunday, so we've given him the same challenge today.
For the first time...
Whoa, Jesus!
Reform UK...
Talking of coffins, holy fuck. This... You don't look well.
Okay, come on, let him have some Werthers. Let him have some Werthers and chill out with Countdown.
True.
Don't drag him on to talk about the polling every single time.
Yeah.
At 25%, they're narrowly ahead of Labour on 24%, and the Conservatives at 22%. Even the Greens at 9% are as popular as they've ever been. And the Liberal Democrats at 14% are at their highest in 6 years. So Thursday's ballot will be a scrap between 5 different parties. Britain's politics is fragmenting before our very eyes. 4 years ago, when Thursday seats were last contested, the Conservatives on 42%...
Look at these two absolute creatures. Fucking Andy Street and Boris Johnson. Honestly.
I mean...
They make me ashamed to be white. Honestly.
Honestly, if someone was tuning into our stream for the first time, they think we're not even political commentators, we're just people who mock the appearance of politicians. And you know what? Maybe if our politicians didn't turn up looking like scrotums, maybe we would have other things.
To be fair, it's only when I'm on your show that people would get that impression. Because usually you're a lot better than this. But no, when it's me, I'm just going on about fingering the Pope and stuff, As you do. Regular Sunday fare.
We're actually 6 points ahead of...
Hang on. My headphones have fucking died. 1 second.
Labour and gained over 200 council seats. Reform barely registered. Now the Tories are defending nearly 1,000 of the 1,641 seats up for grabs. Heavy losses,
hang on,
perhaps as many as half their seats.
Has it gone out of sync for you? Hello? 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 I can't hear Helena. It's out of sync for me if anyone cares. Okay, well I'll reload it, but also everything died. What? Helena can hear you. I can't hear her. I'll stop presenting, hang on. Hello? Okay, I don't know what's going on there. I can hear Kev on her stream. Okay, Helen, if you can hear me, then try dropping out and coming back into the hangout and see if that does anything. Okay. Give it a moment. Don't forget, everyone, you can do bits and subs and all of that jazz. Hello? Nope. Hang on a minute. Settings. Press and hold bar to unmute your mic. Nope. Okie doke. I'll try dropping out and coming back in.
Okay. Apologise for the...
Hey, there we go. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can now hear you.
Perfect. Well, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened.
Seem inevitable.
So
very strange.
Okay.
Anyway, back to where we were. Anyway, I was going to talk about the fact that the Conservatives are polling at 21%, with a government with rock bottom approval rating, and they're going down in support. Hilarious.
Yeah, amazing. Because they're shit, and Kemi Badenoch is one of the worst Tory leaders since probably Ian Duncan Smith. Really.
Yeah, I think you probably have to go back to IDS. Yeah.
So it's not a very pretty picture for you. It's not a very pretty picture for the Conservatives either. But if you look back to the last time Labour had a massive landslide, the year after they did that, the Blair government gained councils, and David Cameron also gained councils in 2011 after he came into power. So what's gone so wrong for you that it looks like you're going to get thumped?
Well, I'd say two things. First of all, I don't particularly like calling elections before they happen. You referred in your opening remarks to my role as a campaign coordinator last year, and I was doing constant interviews where people were trying to get me to say what the result was going to be. I don't like to do that. The great thing about a democracy is it's the voters who decide. In terms of the broader picture, we've had a lot of stuff to sort out over the past year. We inherited a difficult situation.
Hey.
Okay.
We've taken the decisions to do that.
What this is code for, we don't have a fucking clue what we're doing, and we only got into government because people hated the Tories. Now we're in government, we're screwing things up, and that's why everyone hates us. Don't blame us though, it was the Tories' fault for everything. It should be incredibly simple if the previous government fucked things up so badly, if you'd come into government and blame them. But the fact that no one believes you, and they're handing the keys to somebody with literally zero governing experience shows you how rubbish you are.
Yeah. And it's because they basically are doing the same fucking thing. They haven't delivered change. They're just a continuation of the same Tory policies that everyone hated. So why would anyone vote for you? Again, you've given them no reason to, ever.
Those have not been popular, I accept that. But I think we're beginning to see something of a turnaround at the moment. If I look at the NHS, for example, we've had waiting lists falling for the last 6 months running. What's interesting is the waiting list come down by 200,000, but 50,000 of that is in the most deprived areas where we're putting in an extra effort, because we know that in those areas, if you can get people off the waiting list, you can get them into work. We've got the first...
Again, not because it's good for poor people, but we need the poors to make money, so red line go up! That's it. We need these motherfuckers to back being exploited. Thank you very much.
Let's go.
Fucking hell. What was the old thing about the Labour Party as a moral crusader, or it is nothing? And Pat McFadden is the living embodiment of it currently being nothing.
There's clubs that have opened in the past week, 750 of them.
60 pence! 60 fucking pence! Shut up.
Per child. Let's go.
Like, that's not something to brag about, that's embarrassing. Look, you've done something and you're still shitter than Marcus Rashford.
And that's the thing as well, as Ben points out in chat, that it doesn't matter how many tens of billions of pounds they put into the NHS, admirable thing to do. No one fucking remembers, because one of the two things people remember now are the winter fuel payment means tests, which they announced just before parliamentary recess.
Yeah.
And what was it? The last one they did before the most recent recess? What we
Oh,
just kept talking about?
scrapping the regional investigations into pedophile rings.
That's yeah, literally.
Yeah. Well done, lads. But they are going to allow all day opening for Remembrance Day or some shit. So
Literally, if you can go to the pub and get drunk thinking about this First and Second World War, very strange.
Yeah, I'm not sure poppy shagging is really going to do it for you, lads.
No, Marcelo Dunphy pointing out the Pink News headline that the US are demanding we roll back LGBTQ rights to get a trade deal. I mean, yeah, we talked about that on stream a few days ago, a couple of maybe last week I think I did, but yeah, of course they'll do it. Obviously
Yeah, of course
they'll fucking do it.
Yeah, they will happily. If Trump said we need you to burn queer people in a furnace to get a trade deal, he'd do it. We need you to fling them into the fucking ocean, he'd do it. He didn't give a fuck.
Teachers going into training. These are early signs. I don't pretend they've changed everything, but they're movement in the right direction, and people are not yet feeling the full effect of that. But if we keep going and we can go faster than we can.
Because the cuts that led us to this in the first place, if we just cut more and more, it's like digging upwards. People will definitely see the benefit. Fucking hell, well done, mate. They genuinely don't know why they're despised, and that's why they're going to lose, and while I will masturbate over their twitching corpse. Simple.
In the last year, then I think we can build on it.
And that's obviously your hope, but it is still extraordinary, is it not, for a government that had a massive majority, a historic majority, not so long ago. Actually, if you look at the polls, if you listen to public sentiment, if you talk to colleagues of yours privately, or people do not believe that the public is on your side. There's a tangible sense of disappointment. And if you do worse in these elections than you did in 2021, when these elections were last up for grabs, when you polled about 29%, what does that say about people's faith in you as a government?
I don't think it's so unusual.
A bit of journalism, nice.
Not do well in local elections.
They literally, I mean, he's never looked more like fucking Himmler than that pause. Amazing. Anyway,
And also just
she just pointed out to you statistically that incoming governments that get big swings in their favour tend to do well at the following local election. So why is it that you are going to do catastrophically, historically badly?
And again, because you're absolutely right. Came in promising a mandate of change, and they have not delivered change.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't. Baldrick lied to us.
I remember Jack Straw referring to a meeting many years ago of local authority leaders where they complained to a Labour Prime Minister, "We're out because you're in." And it's a pretty common pattern for government.
No, it isn't.
Also, like, you can tell how, I mean, skull-fuckingly boring this guy is, that the go-to example he uses is an anecdote about Jack Straw.
It's so true. And on top of this as well, is that this is the elections for the same seats that were up for election in 2021. So not like exactly after Boris Johnson won the election, but reasonably close to the election of Boris Johnson, right? And they got a massive high, such a high in fact that they're the biggest defenders of councils, which is why they're predicted to be the biggest losers from this. Yep. They're essentially getting a fucking 20-point deficit because they're on like 40-something% of the vote, now down to 21 or something.
Yeah.
So that's why the Tories are predicted to do so badly. It's because they also had local elections pretty soon after a general election, and they did really well.
Yeah.
But it's not common for a government
to struggle in local elections. But as I say, I'm not predicting, because I think people calling elections before they happen is a disrespect to the voters. You can get plenty of people to sit in this chair.
No, it isn't. Analysing polling data is not disrespectful to anyone, you lying bastard. Don't act like that's not exactly what happens at HQ all the time.
I mean, you know what's disrespectful is to not call a spade, Pat.
Yeah.
It's to not just tell it like it is and be honest that the polling is not good, and it's entirely down to actions your party has taken in government, right? Laura Kuenssberg actually being on point for once and saying, well, yeah, you did things that people didn't like and they're punishing it for you at the back. Then they're punishing for you, and they're punishing you for it at the ballot box. What a surprise.
Talk in their own book. It's not what I do. and I prefer for the voters
But the
to
question
do
is,
the talking.
but the question is, if that happens, and you know very well, I know you studied polls and focus groups and those kinds of things carefully. You know very well there is a public sense of disappointment with what this government has done so far. Runcorn is a by-election which was your 16th safest seat, and there you're having, at the very least, to fight very, very hard to hold on to it. Are you relaxed about looking like losers come Friday?
No, I'm never relaxed. You've got to earn every vote. You've got to work for it. That's why I...
If this isn't you relaxed, I mean, what, do you slip into a coma? What the fuck? He has a smoke and he just dies or something, I don't know.
Take
also
the
just-
attitude.
Oh, what? You are literally the 16th safest seat. This is existential. It's
Yeah.
an existential threat to the Labour Party as an electoral force where its absolute heartland communities are tossing it aside. You know?
Yeah, if you're struggling to keep hold of your 16th safest seat, you don't have safe seats. There are no safe seats anymore.
No, nowhere for there are no safe seats anywhere for any party anymore.
Which means you won't be able to parachute someone in, say if someone needed to. Maybe we're streeting, or dare I say Keir Starmer.
Yeah, absolutely. Potentially even Keir Starmer with a potential another Andrew Feinstein challenge at the next election. Because people are going to be fucking furious with Keir Starmer after everything that he's done as Prime Minister, you know?
Indeed.
And on top of this as well, that what should be incredibly safe mayoralty in the west of England, the Labour Party is essentially going to lose to the Greens. The Greens might get like 28% and win the mayoral election
Nice.
because of like a fucking 5-way fragmented vote in the election, you know? And Reform are the ones who are going to be kind of neck and neck with Labour in second place. So the Labour voters are now Reform enablers because they might allow Reform to beat both them and the Greens.
True.
I do 2 elections. Victories are earned. They're not proclaimed beforehand. We'll work very hard in Runcorn. The by-election comes about in unfortunate circumstances, but we've got a good candidate. We'll work hard.
They're not
unfortunate that your candidate is a criminal.
And even then, like, unfortunate circumstances such as the public being mad at you for the things that you've said and done and implemented as a government. No, that's your own fault then. People hate you because you suck. There's nothing unfortunate about the fact. I mean, I guess it's unfortunate for the country that you are the people who are governing it. You know,
Yes,
that's
that
probably
is
pretty unfortunate.
Yeah.
But for you, fortune don't come into it. You had a chance to be good in government, and you've decided, actually, let's throw disabled people into a wood chipper, freeze Granny, aid a genocide,
Yeah.
and pick on a tiny, tiny minority.
Yeah.
For every vote there, just as we will everywhere else in these elections. They're not taking place in places of natural labour strength. We are fighting in the shires here. It's not areas of traditional labour strength. But of course, we'll be out there working for every vote between now and Thursday and getting the best results we possibly can.
But do you believe that the incredibly wide coalition that you built so successfully in July is actually sustainable? Hasn't it already gone pop? I mean, we're looking at an election where you've got 5 parties competing.
It's a fragmented picture, but yes, it is sustainable. It is sustainable
Really?
if we can deliver
No.
in the way that we have started to do. If I could say something about delivery, this is really important because there is a widespread loss of faith
Just fucking deliver yourself to Switzerland, you cunt. Fuck off.
in politics and government to deliver anything. And that's why I come on the programme and I point to what's happening in the NHS, because there's a belief out there, and probably every party hears this on the doorstep, doesn't matter who you vote for, you know, it doesn't make a difference.
And you are the embodiment of that being true. You are literally that. You are that sentiment brought into the world, yeah. People voted for change and they got you. That's
Someone who just... You know what's interesting? Really interesting point here. I was reading an interesting thread by More in Common, who are a pollster who also do like focus groups, and they were talking to people in the Hull mayoralty, the Hull and East Yorkshire mayoralty.
Yeah.
And the Reform candidate is very likely to win.
Right.
And he's likely to win because he's a local lad who's been appointed because he has his own personal positions, right? You know, I don't agree with Reform, but at the very least they say what they believe, you know? and people are warming to him. They even in the focus groups say, "Don't like Farage. Reform don't really have any policies. I don't think I would trust him at a national level." But this guy they've got running as the candidate, I've spoken to him. I think he's a genuine, down to earth, honest, sincere person, and therefore I'm voting for him. Compare that sentiment to any random person on the street and ask them what their opinion of Pat McFadden was after watching him speak for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He's just the archetypal kind of career, kind of professional politician, the archetypal insincere kind of message, the kind of it only repeats platitudes and approved party messages and slogans, and that's just absolute kryptonite to voters at this point in time.
Yeah.
Had years and years of the NHS getting worse. We inherited last year an NHS with the lowest levels of public confidence in history. We are starting to turn that round. Waiting lists are coming down, not up. New diagnostic centres in your own community, 4.5 million new diagnostic tests in those this year. That's 50% more than the same level last year. Starting to turn round, but it's really important that we focus on delivery, not just as a record for our own party, but to show that politics and government can deliver for people when they're asked to vote for
Well,
it.
we'll be very interested to hear also what viewers' experiences are, and we loved hearing people's own stories of what has been happening to them. I want just briefly to ask you about another issue. It was a very important story for many people last week when the Supreme Court ruled that when it comes to equalities law, women must mean a woman who's biologically born as a woman at birth. Guidance from the Equalities Commission, the official body who's following up the rules, if you like, says that trans people should therefore not be allowed to use the facilities of their choice. Will you, in government, as an employer responsible for lots of people and many hundreds of government...
Well, I can't wait for Buck Angel to walk into a women's toilet then.
Very silly, isn't it?
Fun times, fun times. Just ridiculous. I presume you saw the Tory MP essentially going, losing the plot and going silent for several seconds when confronted with the idea that a trans man then is going to have to go into the women's toilet.
Literally. Again, I had a full blown rant on it in my stream. Just
amazing stuff.
It's fine to not know the ins and outs of the politics around trans people if you're a random Joe Public member of the street. Like, most people haven't thought about it, not a problem, need some explaining and some discussion, like whatever. If you're a fucking professional politician being asked to go on the mainstream fucking flagship political discussion program, Suffrage's Politics Hub, to discuss this very issue which you know is going to happen, and you know what a fucking trans man even is, let alone the policy implications of forcing them to go into the same bathrooms as cisgender women, why the fuck have you been invited on the programme to begin with? How fucking embarrassing.
True.
How embarrassing.
But you know what's even worse? Spoons has fallen. The mighty Weatherspoons has fallen to the woke mind virus.
Woker spoons. Woker spoons.
True. As a company, we do not tolerate discrimination in any form. It is our aim that our pubs are welcoming and safe places. Lol. It is also important to note that anyone who proposes to, starts or has completed a process of gender reassignment is protected under discrimination from the Equalities Act. In accordance with these requirements, any transgender person is entitled to use whatever toilet that they feel most comfortable using, whether that be male, female, or access toilets, etc., etc. Good on Weatherspoons, nice. But also, like, whenever I've used the toilet in Weatherspoons, I don't know that I can always tell what species the creatures are in there, let alone fucking gender. If you're worrying about what they've got between their legs, you are worrying about the wrong things, frankly.
Literally, as Hal points out in chat, like, an outflanked from the left again award for Keir Starmer's government. Outflanked by fucking Weatherspoons.
And also, if transgender people can climb the mountains necessary to get to the toilets in a Weatherspoons, they and their Sherpa should be allowed to use whichever toilet they want, obviously.
And that's what's so again, like, he's Keir Starmer is to the right of Tim Martin on trans rights.
Ridiculous.
He's to the right of Nigel Farage on nationalisation. Like,
yeah, mad.
He's to the right of Kit Malthouse on fucking Israel Palestine.
He's a melt. He's a proper fucking melt. Unbelievable. Anyway, so let's hear cis. I'm going to say human, but I'm not entirely sure. Pat McFadden and his amazing take on this.
Also, again, actually, a very, very good point by Ben in chat, pointing out that actually the HRC guidance can force trans people to be not having access to any toilets at all. Like, if you one of the fucking crazy in complete inconsistencies of the rulings is essentially that if you pass too well, you shouldn't go into either toilets.
Yeah, which is ultimately why this will be struck down in Europe, because the whole point of this is that it shouldn't have ambiguity to it. You need to be able to tell which toilet you can and can't use. And obviously this is so ridiculously higgledy-piggledy that no one knows at all what they are or are not allowed to fucking do. So it's going to be struck down, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that breaches the right to privacy for trans people, having to essentially prove their transgender status to people, which, again, that is already have found at the ECHR to be a violation of Article 8 with Goodwin versus the UK, I believe, was the case law in that regard. So almost certainly it'll get struck down in Europe.
Yeah.
Almost certainly it'll get struck down. It's completely unworkable, completely impractical, deliberately designed essentially to try and shove trans people out of public life for good. Because again, one thing that's also really important about the statutory guidance, right? One thing that they deliberately included in this was the memberships of gay and lesbian association groups. I'm like, no motherfucker, other than the weirdos at the Lesbian Project, the fucking 5 gender-critical lesbians who represent the tiny minority of the tiniest minority of the very, very small amount of lesbians that are anti-trans, despite the fact that that cisgender lesbians are the most pro-trans group of people in the fucking country, more so than trans people. Very funny to me, you know?
Yeah.
That they lobbied really fucking hard to Kishwa Faulkner, very, very deliberately, so that they could get their lesbian, so that they could talk about their lesbian organizations, when every fucking lesbian organization that isn't run by like weirdo fucking middle-aged people with loads of time on their hands, they're all incredibly trans inclusive, the most trans inclusive spaces you have ever seen in your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it just shows you how ideologically captured Kishwa Faulkner and the EHRC are, that they included such a line, which you only know is down to the fact that they were talking with people like Julie Bindel and Kathleen Stock. You know 100% that's why these members association things were included. Otherwise, no, they wouldn't have thought about it unless they'd specifically been lobbied by the people like Julie Bindel.
Well, yeah, and in terms of the Supreme Court ruling, they've literally now defined what a lesbian is. Now, given that the government and indeed law and legislation has been nothing but the enemy of queer people, the idea that the government gets to define what is and isn't a lesbian should be... it should make the skin of any queer person crawl. They should react agonisingly towards that, because that's a disgusting thing. The government don't get to tell me or anyone else what a specific type of queer person is. Go fuck yourselves.
Well, honestly, it's literally like trying to legislate the Safety of Rwanda Act.
Yeah. They've just decided what a lesbian is now. Because 3 lesbians who are fucking mental decided that's the way it has to be.
Literally. And as Ben Shop also points in chat as well, that people like Maya Forstadt, people like Sex Matters are now going down the route of, well, you chose to be trans, you chose to transition, therefore it's your fault if we cast you out from society. These people are fucking Nazis. Like, I'm sorry.
100%.
Buildings, will you stop trans people then from using changing rooms or bathrooms that they wish to use?
Well, we'll all have to react to the court judgment and the guidance from the EHRC that you said. But yes, that's the logical consequence of the judgment and the guidance that's come out, that people use the facilities
Go chew glass,
of their
please,
biological
Pat.
sex.
Yeah.
That's
In
what the court
Minecraft.
said, and that's what the guidance has said.
So that is what the government will ban trans people from
Like
using
any
the
big
facilities that they want to
organisation,
choose.
we will react.
We will. Yeah, you are reactionary. Yeah, we know. Look, a lot of people are setting themselves up for a fall, because they're doing all of this and making themselves look stupid, and this will be barely implemented, because in 6 months' time this will be overturned, and they'll look very stupid. So they've done the Section 28, and it's not even going to stay on the books. It's
So again,
totally ineffective.
Yet another thing that's really important to discuss about this, right, is that the people who originally drafted the Equalities Act have essentially said that the interpretation by the Supreme Court is not in the spirit of what was originally meant in these Equality Act, right? Now, obviously, that's not the fault of the judges. Judges are there to interpret what the law says, not to necessarily, be telepathic over the initial.
True, but
to be telepathic over the initial kind of spirit of what was being proposed there. But if the judges rule that your legislation is worded such that it is outside of what you initially meant it to say, that's not a judgment for you to then go, oh, well, I guess I'm wrong about my own thoughts. It's to go, okay, go back to the drawing board. We need to rewrite the legislation because it's worded so badly that the UKSC is disagreeing with the people who originally drafted it. And so every single motherfucker who says, well, it's not Labour's fault, it's the Supreme Court that decided this. No. The fucking Equality Act decided this. The UK Supreme Court is just interpreting it. If the Labour Party think that the UKSC is wrong, or that the Equality Act should say something different, they can just fucking change it. They have a giant majority. They can just take that legislation and go, we think that interpretation is wrong, but we are going to reword it so that we can be interpreted incredibly clearly. But they don't want to do that. They want to be able to have plausible deniability of it being disgusting transphobic shitheads. Because they want to push that, just like they do all of their decisions, to somebody else, to a subcontractor, to a consultant, to a quango, or to some other fucking board or judge or whatever it is. Nothing is their fault. Nothing is their responsibility. It was the dog who ate my homework. It was the consultants who did the bad thing. It was the quango. It was the task force. It was literally anyone else other than me that's to blame here. And of course, again, if you think that Labour Party want to be pro-trans, they literally have every opportunity to do it. They have a giant majority, and they do not fucking want to. That's the long and short of it, right? There is no other evidence that you need to know that the Labour Party is institutionally transphobic from the top down.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say, though, I don't want to let the judges off the hook, because like you say, they interpret law, they don't make law. But the fact that they chose not to hear any evidence from a single trans person or trans organisation, I think it's telling. I don't think this was a proper, legitimate legal case, when the one group who's having their rights stripped from them is the one group that isn't heard from. That's a bit kangaroo courty,
Yeah, it was deliberate, because it was deliberately done so to try and engineer this outcome, just like the appointing of Kishwa Faulkner to be the chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, which has been specifically called out by people who used to work there as having deliberately politicised for political ends. And she was appointed by Liz Truss deliberately to try and get this outcome, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Ryan Sweeney in chat, you can have an opinion, but your opinion is shit and makes no fucking sense, right? So let's just get this straight, right? This guy, right? You want this guy in the women's toilets. That's your common sense position. Is have Leo McCallum, this bearded man, in the women's toilets. Do you not realise how ridiculous that makes your position look? Do you not realise how silly it is to think that assigned gender at birth or assigned sex at birth is the correct way to separate these facilities? Because this is genuinely what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think a single woman will feel safer with that person in the toilet?
Literally, like it's fine to have not thought about it, right? But you can't just defend your opinion on the grounds that you're allowed to have it, or that you just differ. No, your opinion doesn't make any fucking sense in reality, and you can't describe something as being common sense. That is just appeal to pop. That's argumentum ad populum. They make a utilitarian case for the things that you believe. Otherwise, you're just essentially trying to iterate from nothing. What are you going to do to try and find out who is right? You don't know whether this person has what chromosomes this person has. You don't know what genitalia this person has. How the fuck are you going to check? This person could be a cisgender man for all you know, walking to the women's toilets going, well, I can do this because I was assigned female at birth, right? That's literally what any cisgender man could say, whether they were assigned female or male at birth at all. And you would unless you had genital checks or birth certificate checks, which don't even work sometimes because GRCs change your birth certificate, you wouldn't have a fucking clue. Please tell me how you're supposed to make that distinction, Ryan. I would love to know.
And this brings up then the larger sort of practical problem you have with public conveniences in general, because regardless of what system you put in place, it's always going to be possible for an evil person to abuse that system, because you're not going to have a pussy police outside of the fucking each public toilet in the land. And you're also not going to have a trans toilet in a place where you already don't have enough public conveniences to begin with. And how do you enforce that? Well, you can't, basically. That's the point. Most people will just go into the toilet and use it for a pee and a wee and wash their hands and leave. Wash your fucking hands, men. It's mainly the men. Don't even fucking start with me, right? The men's toilets are disgusting by their very fucking nature. Anyway, the point being, yeah, an evil person can still abuse that system, regardless of whether you're shitting on the transes or not. Because in the case where you allow a trans person to go into any toilet they want to go into, because that's the gender they are, someone can abuse that. In theory, a person, what's to stop a man just putting on a dress and going, nothing. There's nothing to stop them. There's literally nothing to stop an evil person from abusing that system. But also, if you do this thing where the trans person has to go into their biological sex toilet, what's to stop them from doing that? Then they don't even have to put the dress on. Now they can just go in there dressed as a bloke and just go, well, I was born as a woman. So you just make it easier for a rapist to go into the women's toilets, you mad cunt.
Like, it's genuine. Like, it's fine to not have thought about this before now, and your brain just goes, this is whatever. This is my position because of what I've kind of iterated from quote unquote common sense. It's fine to not have thought about this at any point before this became the national conversation 5 minutes ago, right? Yeah. Most people haven't thought about it. Most people have kids that need feeding, that they have their own mouths that need feeding. They've got to be able to pay for their mortgage and pay for their bills. Most people don't have time to care about this nonsense shit, right? But when the only defense for your position is it's common sense and I should be allowed to have an opinion. Like, I can accept, Ryan, that you have a different opinion. What I'm saying is your opinion is really fucking stupid, right? And you don't. Again, it's completely unworkable, completely unfeasible. But you're trying to think that the law should be legislating truth rather than utility, and that makes no sense at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The only foolproof plan is to get rid of all toilets. But that's not going to work because you're just going to have piss and shit everywhere. So, how about we have a sensible approach to things? We allow people to use the toilet of their choosing, and then we actually go after people who commit sexual assault against people. Because that's the fundamental problem here is the threat to women is mostly, overwhelmingly, almost exclusively cis dudes. Okay? Again, they're the threat there, and we don't go after them when they do rape. Sometimes they get elected president, for instance, or get to play fucking centre half for Arsenal.
Like, what do you think is more likely? Someone just doesn't have to do anything and just goes, I'm a trans man, even though they're not, and do whatever they want, right? Yeah. Or some would go through the entire fucking procedure of getting a gender recognition certificate, going on HRT, changing the entirety of the way that they live their life, and declaring to the government, that they're going to do this as well, just so they can maybe do a rape at some point in the future. I'm sorry. This is
even more amazingly, to go through all of that rigmarole so that they can come 17th in a weightlifting contest.
Literally.
Brilliant. Or my favourite one ever, that one of the marathon, the London Marathon a few years ago. It was like 15,472nd place, was taken in by a trans person. Like, what the fuck? What are you even doing? Like, 5th place honestly, with Leah Thomas was enough. Now you're having to go all the way back to the fucking fun runners at the marathon. Jesus. Anyway. So yeah, Ryan, you're allowed your opinion, but your opinion is shit. So fuck
sorry,
off,
this is the best bit, Kev. The response is, you want my opinion? I think it's body dysmorphia and a mental health condition. Okay, can you please tell me what medical qualifications you have? Because the broad swathe of the educated medical community does not agree with you on this. And I will take their opinions over a random YouTube chatter who hasn't thought about this for other than the last 5 minutes.
Also, just on a practical point, what difference does that make to where they want to go for a poo?
True.
Like, let's say it is a mental disorder or whatever. They still want to just go for a shit, mate. Like, that, again, that's... Unless you want to criminalise mental health, which, interesting, they've tried that before, it didn't fucking work. Maybe just let them go for a wee and or poo and or wash their hands or apply some lippy. It doesn't matter. It's not affecting you. Stop pretending like this is a big deal. Trans people are not a threat to anybody. Trans people are overwhelmingly the victims of crimes.
True.
Unfortunately, Ryan, by people who have rather similar opinions to yourself. Maybe think about that. Maybe ruminate upon that one, yeah? Anywho.
But look, in reality, when you say ban, am I going to be standing outside toilets? I'm probably not. There isn't going to be...
There's no way he doesn't stand outside toilets. There's no way Pat McFadden doesn't skulk around the toilets of Westminster like a fucking weirdo piss vampire.
I mean, if I was going to guess anyone was going to do it, it would be Pat McFadden.
Yeah, if you saw the headline, Pat McFadden found sniffing shit in public toilet, you wouldn't be surprised. Look at him.
Toilet police, but that is the logical consequence of the court ruling and the EHRC guidance.
Do you acknowledge...
What do you mean? Hang on. Whoa, time out. That's the logical consequence, and you've said you will react to this. So, unless you're literally planning on dropping a white paper on us on Monday morning with a massive change to gender recognition laws, are you saying it will be government policy to institute pussy police? Or I suppose PP police. Pussy and PP police, right? Is that actually what the government's plan is? Because you've just said that's the logical consequence, and you'll follow the ruling. So, I mean, you don't employ doctors. How the fuck are you going to find money? I don't think G4S are going to take this contract on, lad. I think you're going to have to actually employ people on the public dole, and I don't think it's going to fucking work.
We can't afford welfare payments for the disabled, but we can afford unilateral fucking genital inspection police.
How many public toilets are there in the UK? Public toilets in the UK total. There are around 3,300. No, hang on, no, that's not right. Sorry, 14,000 publicly accessible toilets across the UK. 14,000. So you're going to need to employ, I mean, what? 3 shifts a day at least? So that's, what, fucking 40-odd thousand? 40-odd thousand people. And obviously you're going to have to do criminal background checks on those, because naturally lots of people will want to get involved in that have nefarious intent.
I mean, if
where's that money coming from?
I mean,
that's millions.
Speaking of toilet police, I think if we really wanted to prevent sexual assault, we should ban police from toilets.
And MPs.
Yep, and members of the royal family.
Oh, naturally, yes, yeah. So no police, no royals, probably no journalists as well, to be honest with you. I'm going to say this, no streamers.
What's funny, right, is Ryan is now saying that the thought the left were more open-minded. I'm literally fucking... You've derailed my entire stream so that you can spout your uninformed gibberish, right? I'm just like debating a flat earther.
Open-minded doesn't just mean we'll accept any old shite.
Yeah,
open mind means you take on board somebody else's opinion, and if it's rubbish, you tell them why it's rubbish, and you move on. It's not like a sponge where you just accept anything. Like, no, your ideas are rubbish, and you should feel bad about that.
I specifically explains to you exactly why everything you're saying makes literally zero sense, and your response was, "I think these people are mentally ill." That's your whole response to the broad utility of public policy, right? Like, if you had up here to have a serious conversation where you were making a serious point and had some kind of utilitarian discussion over the merits of policy, then maybe people wouldn't be talking to you like you're an idiot. Literally.
Acknowledge as a senior government minister that the consequences of this ruling, indeed the ruling itself, have caused quite widespread anxiety among the trans community?
Well, I hope everybody's treated with kindness in this, and I think we've probably talked about it in past interviews. This has been a debate where there's very strong feelings around it, but the important thing of the last week is the court has given clarity.
No, it hasn't.
No, they haven't.
They've done the opposite of that. It's literally less clear now than it's ever been. Previously, people could just go for a piss, and now they're having to go like, I don't know, can I go into either of these toilets? Do I have to squat down in the middle of the street like a cat? What is this?
About facilities, I think that will travel through to sport. to other parts of public policy as well, and we'll all have to respond to the ruling of the court and the new guidance that's been issued.
The ruling of the court is about the Equality Act. The ruling of the court is about the Equality Act. That's all that it ruled upon, was the definition of what they meant by women in the Equality Act, which has been already undermined by the people who originally drafted the Equality Act.
Yeah. Someone pointed this out when the actual decision happened, and I covered it. Someone made the very good point that the old law lords, the only good thing that they could do, where this would have been an advantage if they'd still existed rather than becoming the Supreme Court and all of that, was that they could just march down the hall, knock on the door of the Commons and say, this bill is shite, rewrite this fucking bill. Which is what they used to do. If the law was found to be rubbish, they could literally just go back and say, this law doesn't fucking work, reword it, dickheads. Words to that effect. And then the Commons would have to do something about it and send it back to them. Whereas now, now you can just go, the Supreme Court said that every Wednesday we have to dress as a giraffe. Discuss. And then Parliament can just choose to ignore that or go with it or whatever. Just rubbish.
Exactly. And on top of this as well, is that when it comes to the GRA, the Gender Recognition Act, which the government was forced to create to apply to be in accordance with the European Convention on Human Rights, that's something that the Labour government were forced into doing under Tony Blair. Like, that specifically states that people who have a GRC are counted in law as being the opposite sex, right? Or being their sex they are, not the sex they have, their required gender rather than the sex assigned at birth, right? And that updates their legal sex in terms of their birth certificate, etc., right? And so, this totally contradicts what's been said here. These two pieces of legislation cannot coexist. And if you get rid of the GRA, you're instantly, flagrantly flouting the ECHR, as was proven by Goodwin versus the UK, under Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights. It makes no sense. All it does is add even less clarity, because we have absolute fucking scores of contradictory legislation now, all over the shop.
Strong feelings on this issue for a number of years, including in the Labour Party. Do you regret how Labour treated some of those who expressed concern?
This is one of the most disgusting aspects of this. Not just that obviously people are losing rights, but like the insult to injury of, you should really apologise to the transphobes, actually. No, Rosie Duffield can go and play Roblox. Immediately. Forthwith. Kemi Badenoch is a piece of shit. All of you. You're all garbage, and I hope nothing but bad things happens to you.
And Rosie Duffield didn't even leave the Labour Party because of trans people.
Yeah.
She left the Labour Party because of all of the awful shit they were doing to poor people, and the attitude of the people centrally in the party to their own MPs with regards to the introductions on policy and how they use the whip, etc., etc. Like, she didn't mention trans people at all in her resignation letter. She resigned from the party because the people of the party are genuinely contemptible people, I sided with Rosie Duffield on that one,
Well, there you go. Clip it.
About what was going on. Some of those who campaigned actually for more protection of single-sex spaces, do you regret how some of them were treated?
Well, we always said we would protect single-sex spaces. That was in our manifesto.
Which is why I knew you wouldn't do it. Yeah.
It's in the Equality Act. This is a Labour Act. We passed it the last time we were in government.
But you know very well, and people watching know very well,
backed up the Act.
But people know very well watching this that the Prime Minister was busy often saying trans women are women. David Lammy accused some people campaigning or raising concern of being dinosaurs who wanted to hoard their rights. So
True.
Do you regret
do you remember when David Lammy
the way
wasn't
that
a cunt?
Labour treated some of those?
David Lammy, literally.
Do you remember when he
David Lammy.
He opposed genocide and said that transphobes were bad? Do you remember that?
Oh, I thought they said that Donald Trump was a Nazi, but maybe all of those dinners he had with Trump changed his opinion on other things as well.
True. I was just checking their chat. Someone said, when was the Supreme Court set up? And I wasn't sure. 2009. Yeah. Replaced the inner house of the Court of Session in Scotland, the High Court of Judiciary, the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Marital Appeal Courts. There you go. 2009.
I will note that Ryan says he is leaving now, and not once has he defended any of his positions with any logic at all. Just got mad that he was opposed for the positions that he held, and not once has actually presented any evidence at all to defend them. and is now going, oh, well, you'll never win your debate like this. I'm like, well, you've not even tried to fucking debate. You've just come here and go, well, I believe what I believe, and it's common sense. Well, I've just got a different opinion. And you've not even tried to defend your opinion with any sense of utility. You've not provided any position at all on what would constitute a utilitarian case for your position. Not in the slightest. You've just gone, here's my opinion, deal with it. And you expect us to take you fucking seriously? Oh, well, you'll never win the debate. Clearly, I was never going to get through to somebody who doesn't even understand their own fucking positions themselves.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, according to Statista, the UK is now ranked behind Belarus and Turkey for trans rights.
I mean, we're behind like Pakistan. We're behind China, right?
Yeah. Literally, look. Oh God. In Europe, the only countries we're now ahead of are Bulgaria, in your face, Phantom of Black, Hungary, and Russia. That's it. The only countries we're now ahead of. Fucking Christ Almighty.
People wonder why I want to leave the country.
Yeah.
People wonder why I want to leave the country. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy talk. And they're like, oh, well, you're making a fuss out of nothing. I can't fucking exist in public now.
Yeah.
Because the EHRC guidance specifics that you can literally ban trans people from all toilets other than the disabled.
Yeah.
And even then, a lot of public toilets have the disabled individual cubicles within the gendered toilets, right?
Yeah. Oh,
the EHRC guidance is so fucking nonsensical. It might end up in the position where literally every single facility is going to be made unisex because businesses literally can't be fucked to deal with the hassle anymore because it's nonsensical, unworkable, unpragmatic, and just a whole fucking heap of shit. They're just going to take the signs off the doors and give the trans people what they wanted and give the Tursley the opposite of what they wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not going to have any single-sex spaces anymore because companies can't afford to police this weird, dumb shit. So what you're going to end up with, instead of a men's and women's toilets, is just 2 unisex toilets or 1 big knock-through unisex toilet.
Yeah, or they'll just label it going cubicles, urinals, right?
Yeah.
That's what they'll label it as because they can't be asked dealing with what could be appeals to the EHRC's guidance on the part of the people who want to exclude trans people, and for the trans-inclusive people appeals to the European Convention of Human Rights because these things do not agree with each other as we know from existing case law. Yeah. This will be completely unworkable and will almost certainly just lead to a bunch of mixed-sex facilities.
And I don't like that because I'll be honest with you, when I've used unisex toilets, it feels weird. I walk in there and there were women in there. And I'm just like, this is. I'm not. Oh, I can just go into the toilet and do the thing, but I don't like the idea of shitting in front of women. I don't know why. Maybe that's some old school weirdness, but I just don't like it. I like the fact that you can go into a men's toilet and it's disgusting, so I feel better than them.
Thank you, Samuel Wilkins, who knows more about building regulations than I do. Apparently, planning guidelines have the buildings must have male and female toilets. Brilliant, love it, great. The country's just completely up the shitter. So
we're fucked then. Yeah, brilliant. So we need a men's, a women's, a unisex, and a trans toilet now. We're going to need 4. We're going to need to double the number of toilets. What about intersex people? We're going to need a 5th fucking toilet. We're just going to be a nation of fucking public shitters everywhere. There's going to be nothing else left. There's going to be no building that isn't a toilet.
Honestly, Rishi Sunak was trying to mock people for having 7 recycling bins, and they want us to have. They now want to have 5 toilets.
Yes, let's fucking go.
What was happening before this ruling?
Look, I think it's been a debate where people have had strong feelings. There've been people hurt in the debate.
And do you regret that?
Look, I think we need to go through this whole thing. As the Prime Minister said at Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesday.
By the way, can I just say, keep Brown Joy's name out of your fucking mouth, you piece of shit. You don't get to say one day trans women aren't women and then try and defend your fucking leading Brown Joy's mum around Parliament as if you ever gave a fuck, you piece of garbage.
Yep, genuinely subhuman.
God almighty.
With dignity and respect. That was true before the ruling, it's true after the ruling, and that's the way that I hope we can go forward.
Okay,
means nothing.
Oh, okay. Sorry, another clarification, according to the other Kev in chat, building regulations say you must have male and female toilet. It doesn't say if they have to be in different places. Went through this with the bar. Interesting. So by having male and female, it means that a male and female toilet is a unisex toilet because it caters to both, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're saying? That's gone through? Because I thought, didn't someone say that Kemi Bade not change the rules? All of this is a fucking mess. Just let the buildings do what they want to do and let people fucking piss where they want to piss.
That's the.
Why does
That's,
it have to
it's such a non-issue. It's such a non-issue. Just people want to go for a wee. Let them. Why are you being fucking weird about this?
The thing is, what I saw somebody say, well, we up until 10 years ago, it was really, really simple. People just used the toilet based upon their sex assigned at birth, and I'm just like, no, they didn't. I'm sorry,
they didn't.
You've been pissing next to trans people your whole life.
Yeah.
You just didn't care until people from the Times and the Telegraph and the Daily Mail told you.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't an issue. Literally, it wasn't an issue.
Literally, it wasn't an issue.
Like
But
trans people have always been pissing next to you, and they're always going to be pissing next to you, and you won't know, and that's fine.
Or care.
Yeah,
exactly. And again, you only care because you've been told to by the Times and the Telegraph and the Daily Mail, right? The only reason that you've been kind of polarized against this, you're negatively polarized against trans people, is because the papers have told you it. That's literally it. Otherwise you would have cared before now when trans people were literally shitting next to you. And the fact that you only think that it's been 10 years ago when that is manifestly not the case in terms of trans people existing in this country shows that it's something that you've picked up from somewhere else and not something that you cared about genuinely. Otherwise you'd know all the trans people that you've had to piss next to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. They'll just find a workaround where it'll say, and this is, I think Maria gets it in one, the one with urinals and the one without urinals. Don't make any reference to them. They're both technically unisex. Sorry, they're both technically unisex. So anyone can go in any, but the women are going to go into the one with the cubicles, and the men are going to go into the one with the urinals. So it's essentially a. Oh, they're both unisex, honest, and then everyone sort of knows. Oh, it's that's the one I go into. Because in Britain we like to fudge issues if we can. if we can just sort of like find a wording issue with it, we'll do that. Yeah. Reminds me of the great Brian Hawes, who used to campaign outside of Parliament, an anti-Iraq war guy. From Redditch, actually, just down the road. And he's dead now, unfortunately, rest his soul. Anyway, they passed the Serious and Organised Crime Prevention Act, one of which stipulated that you couldn't have unplanned protests in the environs of Parliament. You had to get police permission. And it was used just to get rid of him, right? Because it was embarrassing. He was right in the middle of Westminster, and all of the delegates from foreign prime ministers and kings and queens would have to drive past it, and that was embarrassing for the Blair government. So they introduced this piece of legislation, and Hawes's lawyers argued that because the law says once this law is passed and given royal assent, blah blah blah, it means because his protest was ongoing and predated the law, that he didn't apply to him, and the judge went, that's fine, yeah. Agreed to it. So the one person it was introduced to get rid of was the one person it didn't apply to in the entire country. Which I love the silly word game of that. That was like legal. That was fine. He carried on for fucking years. Amazing. He was the only person in the country who could. Anyway, so we'll have a toilet equivalent of that.
With us this morning. Well, millions of you can tell the politicians what you think at the ballot box on Thursday. But we want to know what you think right now. You can email us, kunsberg@bbc.co.uk, or on social media, use the hashtag, and the WhatsApp number is 08000.
Yeah, Ryan, if you want to get your opinion in, fucking email this dickhead. You're both wrong, so go for it.
I mean, because at least the BBC want to hear uninformed ad hoc reckons from the public, rather than, actual researched and properly iterated opinions from professionals, hence why they get Simon Clarke on Sky News and shit like that, right? Yeah. They're very happy to hear from people who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And also get very mad when people refute the positions that they hold with logic and facts and reason.
Yeah, the BBC want to hear your bullshit. We don't.
161. More of that later. or in our Thursday newsletter.
Actually, before we get onto that, ironically I do need to use the unisex toilet in my house.
Well, using a unisex toilet, I can't believe you've gone woke, Kev.
I have. Honestly, I've fallen to the DEI. That's the problem. So I'll leave you to talk for like 2 minutes, and I'll be back.
I will do so. Non-binary points out. So, taking the example of Brian Hawes, if I just sit in a women's bathroom for like 2 years, however long it takes them to figure out a law, does that mean that I get to use a women's bathroom? I'd be the only person in the whole country who's trans who gets to use a women's bathroom. I mean, I couldn't possibly comment. ITV are thinking about a new series called Bugwatch, the less glamorous version of Baywatch, where they follow the new pig police division, the Penis Inspection Group Limited. I mean, to be fair, maybe the correct way to get, an economic growth boom is to let Armitage Shanks have at the economy. That'll be definitely a source of supply side investment, building new sets of toilets for every building in the country, which is the suggestion of the fucking interim guidance. Thank you for the 10 gifted, Faminsky. I appreciate the support. Tiff, I left the Lib Dems today and joined the Greens. I've lived them for 32 years, but no more. Well, I'm glad to have you on side with the Green Party. I'm glad to have you with us. We are always happy to have people to come join us, fight for taxes on the rich, progressive policy, and the public and collective ownership of essential services, as indeed they should be in public hands. Thank you. Welcome to the team. Weatherspoon CEO was saying it was 100k to put new toilets in. Who the fuck is doing that? I mean, I think it's unlikely to be that expensive to put as much in to new toilets, but it's still a ridiculous cost to put into just because of what the Times and the Daily Mail think should be public discourse. Well, you're absolutely right, Mary Ann. Like, I mean, the judgment, the judgment from the UK Supreme Court seems to think that intersex people don't exist. Like, the intersex people have essentially been written out of the Equality Act because there is no ruling on what they are, because there is the complexity of the bimodal distribution of sex wasn't included as part of the UKSHC judgment, because they essentially said that sex was something that they could be, that they didn't need to rule on the definition of. They just said that it was, what's the phraseology that they used? Was that it was essentially it was common sense, And except it isn't, because sex is a bimodal distribution with which there are many different things that are that make it more than just a binary. You can change what you believe, Ryan. You can change it by learning how logic works. I'm sorry, like what you're essentially engaging in is religious thought. If you're saying that you believe this because you believe it, and you haven't bothered considering the practicality, the application, or the utility, then what you're just arguing for is scripture. What you're arguing for is believing like somebody who reads scripture and recites it. You are not arguing for a place of practicality or utility, which is what actually everybody else is arguing from.
Is this the same fucking dickhead?
Same person, yeah.
Oh, for God's sake.
The genuine phrase is, "I can't change what I believe," and I'm just like, yes, you can. You can. I used to believe plenty of things that I do not believe because I was shown evidence that it was wrong.
I was about to say, you weren't born with this information.
Yeah.
You weren't born with the knowledge of trans and not trans. You learn shit. You develop and evolve over time. Are you a robot? What do you mean you can't fucking change what you believe?
Like I used to vote. I voted for Nick Clegg in 2010. People learn.
Unforgivable.
People get better.
Unforgivable.
No, but I voted for the Lib Dems once. That means I'm a Lib Dem forever.
Yeah, no. Come the revolution, it will be brought up. The Central Committee will raise this with you. Just saying.
It's true. I have my Titoism card revoked.
True.
Listening to Pat McFadden was Sir Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader. He's been back in his happy place on the campaign trail in the last couple of weeks. There he is. I don't know what that is. That's a hobby horse jumping over little fences, and there, I'm not sure if hedgehogs have the vote. That would be quite something for the franchise. But let's hear what he has got to say about what's happening.
There's got to be something in there about him being a prick, right? There's a joke in there somewhere.
This morning. Thanks for being with us. Let's just start on that issue.
Good morning, Laura. Nice to be with you too.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Let's start on the consequences of the Supreme Court decision. Do you agree with the guidance that has come out from the EHRC, the Equalities Commission, saying that trans people should not be allowed to use the facilities that they choose?
Well, the Equalities Commission is trying to put effect through guidance about the Supreme Court ruling, and we're going to have to study it. My initial view is it's trying to do exactly what it needs to do, but there are lots of questions still to be answered about how this is enforced.
Whoa, Ed.
For example,
Ed.
just as Pat McFadden.
Ed, whoa, don't cut yourself on that edge there. Maybe, well, if you sit on the fence anymore, you'll have fucking fence posts up your ass, mate.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying so hard to say as many things as possible whilst not holding a single opinion.
Yeah, he's a Liberal Democrat.
Yeah, well, of course he is a Lib Dem. But like, literally, he's out here going, well, the HRC are ruling, and I think that rulings have to be studied, and we don't know until we've. It's out there. It's already out there. The interim guidance was produced on Friday night. You've had 2 days to study this, Ed. Right?
Yeah.
Like, either you think that trans people should be allowed to use the bathroom of their choice, or you don't. It's as simple as that. Why is he tries to mark himself as a relatable politician? He can't answer a single question.
True. Well, yeah, I mean, he's a fucking suit. Yeah.
Adam was saying. So we want to ask more questions about this because we do need answers. Lots of people are confused. Lots of people are quite worried and anxious in the trans community.
What do you believe?
Yeah, I was about to say, what are your answers to this? Like, my dude.
What do you believe?
Yeah.
Make a fucking like an actual statement of your own belief, right?
Yeah.
Make a normative statement on this issue. Also, thank you, Bevstar, for the 5 gifted. That's very generous of you. Thank you.
Thank you to Ross DG. Although for some reason the noise didn't go off and scare the shit out of me, but okay. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it was when I was away. Wondering if it's possible to split the TERF transphobia from more traditional right-wing bigotry, or are they as bad as each other? Thanks. Well, Ross, my answer to that is they are as bad as each other. As soon as this came through and they've taken the big W on this, it's depending on their exact thing. Some of them want to go after intersex people or asexual people. Some people want to go after immigrants. Been a lot of anti-immigrant type stuff. Some people are like, well, secretly it's the Jews anyway. We need to go after the Jews. Like they're all bigots. They're bigoted scum. You know, there's no parsing the good bigots from the bad bigots, really. Yellow.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we do need more guidance. Let me give you one example, Laura. I'm so pleased you've asked me about this, actually, because
You are a liar. This is the one thing you definitely did not want to talk about, obviously. You don't have an answer.
Well, yeah, so of course you don't want to talk about it because it's not social care.
Exactly. Or FIFA. Or playing one-on-one on FIFA. So,
although I've talked about it in a few questions, I've not had a chance to give a proper discussion, and it does need a thoughtful discussion. So one example is for trans man. Now, a trans man is a biological woman, and under the court ruling, as I understand it, they can't use a man's toilet, but should use a women's toilet.
Pause.
And I'm not sure if the guy.
No, that's what the EHRC interim guidance has said. The UK Supreme Court judgment was specifically around the application of the Equality Act and nothing else. Right? This is like we're literally having leaders of political parties not understanding the basics of this issue on the prime time interview on Laura Kingsburg.
It's not like he's a member of literally the organisation that writes laws. Like, what do you think he is? A legislator or something? Don't be silly. This is just silly little Ed Davey, the postmaster killer.
Guidance is dealing with that because, first of all, would the trans man want to use that woman's toilet? And secondly, if they go into that woman's toilet, that could cause some anxiety, obviously, and even worse.
Yes, and TERFs haven't thought this through. If a big butch beardy fucking trans dude walks into the toilet, none of the women there will feel safer. But that's what the law says. Welcome to the world the TERFs created for you. Fucking mental. Honestly, that Tory not understanding that basic concept just shows you how last 5 minutes it was that they even were introduced to this topic. Because all they've thought is, man in a dress. That's it. They've not thought about it any further than that. They haven't thought, well, the trans men exist too.
Well, because none of them actually care about trans people. They don't
Yeah.
care about anybody else other than expunging trans people from society. That has been the project that's been engaged in by the media in this country for the last 5 years, you know? That's a deliberate plan that they have been trying to enact to try and ensure that trans people literally cannot exist in society, right? Remember the words that were said by a kind of prominent gender critical person who said every person who transitions is a problem to a sane world? They think we make the world less sane and they want as few of us to transition as possible. That's literally it. They want as few they don't want to exist around us, and will write laws working from that position backwards, or will ask for laws that work from that position backwards, right? It's not about the utility of the law, it's how much does it achieve the aim of removing trans people from public life. That's what, remember Michael Knowles at CPAC?
Yep.
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely.
Yeah.
That's the driving factor behind this, not what's best for society, what's best for people more broadly, what has the most utility, what's pragmatic, or what makes people feel safe. None of that. It's just trans people give us the ick, we want them expunged.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Safety should be at the core of how we test these different guidelines. Would that mean that a man could go into a woman's toilet and say, oh, I'm a trans man? That would cause even more worries about lots for...
Jesus Christ. Like, I explained it very simply for our friend Ryan, who popped in a second ago. And I was explaining that in a simple way to be sort of demeaning to Ryan, because he's a fucking idiot. Whereas this is the leader of the Liberal Democrats, a member of the actual legislature of the British government, or the British state, explaining it to himself, I think, more than anyone else, in that same way.
The thing is, right, is that Ed Davey is correct in saying that this is a problem with the lack of clarity with the lack of clarity in the statutory guidance, okay? But if you admit that this is a case and this is a problem with the guidance, then say the guidance is wrong, Ed.
Yeah.
Don't make up some wishy-washy position that doesn't actually address
But he knows
what you feel. It's not a normative position that you're holding here. You're trying to dance around the issue. If you think that this is a problem, which clearly that it is, say you think the guidance is wrong. Say you think the statutory guidance, the interim guidance being given out the EHRC is unpractical and completely unworkable and deliberately being done without any of these things in mind because it's been written by people who don't understand the issue. Right? But say these things because it's clear that that's what the position that you're trying to articulate here means.
His party exclusively appeals to wishy-washy middle-class dickheads, right? Wine moms, etc., who are the exact target group of TERFs. So he knows that even though this is unworkable and stupid, he can't say that because he'll probably lose some votes. That's it. He's just political calculator bot who's squirming desperately to try and not answer this question.
Yeah, like taking a normative position means that there might be somebody who disagrees with you, who you then lose the vote of, which is far more important than, having principles. Having
principles or just a vaguely workable legal system. Yeah.
For lots of people. So it is a bit confusing, Laura. I'll be very frank with you. We need to debate these issues. I'm glad we are getting some of this clarification and guidance. What I think we do need, and what Liberal Democrats would like to see, is more debate in Parliament about this.
No. The only thing Liberal Democrats want to see is Britain rejoin the European Union. That's it.
And also,
that's literally it.
Also, no, actually, we don't need these things debated in Parliament. I do not want debates to be had around whether I have to shit in Parliament. I want literally someone to just go, this is all a bunch of pish.
I don't mind you shitting in Parliament, that's fine.
Yeah, I was just like, somebody come along, just knock some sense into these people by saying, look how stupid this is. Look how totally unworkable and impractical this is.
Well, that's what ultimately happened. If this does get implemented, what you're going to get is vigilante nonsense where cis women are attacked for not looking feminine enough in toilets by dudes largely, I think. You're going to have the situation of beardy trans men having to go for a piss out of their penis into in a women's toilet, and the converse of trans women having to go into the men's toilet, and nobody feeling good about that situation. Everyone feeling weirded out and just like it's a fucking abuser's paradise as well, and it's going to cause havoc. And within a fortnight, they'll have to introduce some kind of emergency legislation to clarify the situation, because it's going to be totally unworkable. But as you said, I think most places will take the spoons approach of just ignore it. Just let them carry on pissing where they were pissing. It wasn't a problem. Like,
well, that's the thing, right? Is that at the end of the day, all businesses care about is their own bottom line.
Yeah.
How do we avoid spending money on litigation? How do we avoid this as much as we can? This is why, for example, places have DEI people in their people solutions departments. Yeah. It's not because they really want to ensure that they have as many woke attributes being included as part of their retinue or whatever. No, it's entirely because they don't want to fall foul of equalities legislation. So there are people there essentially to do the due diligence to ensure that they don't fall foul of these things. Really simple. Don't want to be litigated. We'll just pay someone a reasonable salary to avoid litigation. And the exact same thing will happen here. Do we want to be taken to the Equality and Human Rights Commission because of we've fallen foul of the statutory guidance? Or alternatively, do we want to get taken to the European Convention of Human Rights? No, we don't do either of these things. So we're just going to completely remove single-sex spaces entirely, because it is entirely impractical to police what's going on here, and we have two different opinions based upon who you ask in terms of the people who are there to legislate on this.
Yeah.
There is nothing at all that makes it simple to be able to adhere to both the ECHR's guidance and the European Convention of Human Rights. You just can't, so they're just going to not do either.
Yeah.
So we can tease out these issues and try and get a solution we can all agree with that's clear for people.
Oh yeah, you know what leads to everyone agreeing? Debates in Parliament. You're a fucking idiot. You really are. Hey, Davey. You've been in Parliament forever. The idea that people debating shit in Parliament's going to lead to some sort of like kumbaya situation where everyone just agrees on trans issues. Get fucked, mate.
I'm like, even like, why would a debate in Parliament matter? Why would a debate in Parliament matter at all when the government of the day has a giant majority?
Yeah, they could solve this very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, what would a debate in Parliament do? Other than just inflame tensions further, right?
Yeah.
It's the government's job to legislate on this, and they are abdicating responsibility by pretending it's not up to them, when it quite literally is, because the UKSC is specifically there to interpret legislation, not to create it. If they think that it's wrong or right, then create new legislation.
Well, you wouldn't even necessarily need new legislation. You could just amend. Just a couple of relatively short amendments to the pre-existing legislation would solve the problem.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even need a new act or anything, really. You could have this done in a fortnight. But they don't want to.
No.
Because, again, they're sort of transphobic, you know? Ultimately.
Respects people's rights. That's absolutely critical to this whole issue.
When you, I want people to be pressed on this. When you say protect people's rights, whose rights? Whose rights do you want to protect? Because just saying we want to protect rights doesn't mean anything. Like, a Nazi would say, we're not anti-Jewish people, we just want to protect the rights of Aryans. Like, do you know what I mean? It's so malleable as to mean nothing. Whose rights do you want to protect?
Separate but equal, for example, was a principle that was explicitly about not infringing on the rights of white people to have to share fountains with coloured people, right? That's what the way it was worded, right? You can call them black people. They called them coloured at the time.
Yeah.
And that was the distinction that was made at the time, you know?
Yep.
And of course, we shouldn't be dividing people based upon fucking racial attributes, or indeed whether people are cisgender or transgender.
Indeed.
You don't think then that there is now clarity on this issue? Because when the judgment emerged, the government said, we welcome the clarity. That was their line. You don't think the situation is clear yet?
Obviously not.
Well, there's clarity in respect to the Equality Act, but as the Supreme Court itself said, in law, a trans woman is a woman, except in regards of the Equality Act. We absolutely accept that ruling. You'd expect us to do that. We believe in the rule of law, and the Supreme Court has explained what the Equality Act means. It's given clarity on that.
Also, again, you say, oh, we accept that ruling, but do you think the legislation is therefore good or bad? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, saying we shouldn't break the law is one thing, but you are a legislator, you can change the law. So do you think you should? Or it should be changed,
Like, we accept that the UK Supreme Court has ruled that that's what the Equality Act says.
Yeah.
But we think that that is the wrong outcome.
Yes.
Because we think the legislation is now wrong. Like, previously, the way it was understood was a way that we understood it differently. The Supreme Court have said that it should be ruled in the way that we think is bad, so we want the legislation updated. That'd be a normative position. But all he's saying is, well, I agree that the UK Supreme Court can rule on the meaning of a piece of legislation. Well, everyone agrees, because that's the whole fucking point of the Supreme Court, Ed.
Yeah, it's essentially saying, I believe in reality. Okay?
Yeah.
I accept that this is a true thing that happened. Okay, thanks, Ed. Brilliant. You've sold me. I'm voting Liberal Democrat now.
But now we have to make sure that the practical implications are understood. That's where these guidance that you talked about are supposed to help. But as we look at that guidance, I think there's still lots of questions raised that haven't been answered, like the example I gave.
Okay.
So in good faith, we need a proper discussion. Yeah.
Do you think that the Lib Dems in the last years made some mistakes in recent times over its treatment of people who were involved in...
You need to be nice to transphobes! No. Fuck you.
...this debate. In January,
and again,
you had to give a payout for discrimination.
And also, what's so stupid about this, to talk about, oh, shouldn't you have been nicer to people in your own party? Like, you're allowed to have an ideological position as a political party. In fact, it's admirable, indeed, to have an ideological position as a political party, right? Oh, well, hang on, people have been discriminated against because they had political viewpoints that weren't considered as being acceptable by the party, right? What, so you're saying that if I joined the fucking Conservative Party as an actual factual fucking communist, right? As an actual Marxist, join the Conservative Party, and they say, well, we weren't allowed to be a member because you said that the bourgeoisie should be hunted down like dogs in Minecraft and sent to the Tesco gulag, and that's outside of our party political. Oh, you're discriminating against my genuinely held beliefs. Well, they're allowed to. It's the Conservative Party. They're a capital. Why have they allowed communists in? Like, have an ideological position that your party agrees with, and then you're allowed to get rid of people if they disagree with it. That shouldn't be contentious.
Yep.
After booting out a female candidate who wore a T-shirt saying a woman was an adult human female. So have the Lib Dems made mistakes?
No, she made a mistake because it should have said femoid. Fact.
Well, I think we've all learned a lot through this process. I certainly have. I know all parties have. I've talked to MPs across Parliament. I think we've all been on a learning curve, and I think organisations have. And of course, when you're on that, the mistakes I'm sure will be made. But we've tried our best to listen to people, both inside the party and outside the party, and we want to work with others because we do need to make sure that everyone's rights.
What the fuck? Hang on. Is it? Okay, this is a real article. It's from the Telegraph, though, so take it with a pinch of salt, I guess. NHS to test all trans children for autism.
Well, they've gone full fucking RFK.
Every child referred to a gender clinic will be screened under new guidance following the CAS review. The NHS will test all children who believe they are transgender for autism under new plans seen by the Telegraph.
I mean, I would like to clarify the widely discredited CAS review.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad we got rid of the Tories. That's awesome. Yeah, fantastic.
Really feeling the sense of change.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're just descending into Nazi weirdness. Brilliant. Fucking Christ.
Protected. And let's be clear what we mean by everyone's rights being protected. Violence against women and girls is almost 20% of violent crime. It's appalling. We need to tackle that. And violence against trans people has been on the rise. So when we talk about...
Okay, and what's the predominant group of people doing this? To both trans and cis women?
he's making a reasonable point here. If he could make the very affirmative case and say, why are we banging on about toilets when rape is de facto illegal in this country, which is basically true.
Yeah.
The level of evidence you need to be able to convict someone of rape is insanely high, so that basically everyone gets away with it at this point.
Yeah, it's basically
This is really,
impossible, yeah.
this is a real issue. Where people decide to take a piss is not.
Yeah.
About protecting people's rights. It's about stopping violence against people. Nothing could be more serious. So we all have
it's
to
about
take this
both
seriously.
of those things, you dopey prick. Where someone is allowed to go for a piss and their right not to get raped are both things that are important. It's not an either or. Oh, God. Even for a Liberal Democrat, this is rubbish. This is really weak, honestly.
We have to work together, and key to this is taking the toxicity and hostility out of the argument.
Okay.
That's why we're saying let's have a good faith, grown-up debate in Parliament, and let's try to come to a solution where everyone's rights are protected.
Okay, I mean, it's going to be difficult to take the toxicity out of the argument when the TERFs are over there, like, jerking off over the corpses of trans people. Like, it's going to be difficult to have that nicey conversation as Graham Linehan laughs about a trans kid who got fucking killed. You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult.
I mean, you're being facetious about that there, but he did laugh at somebody suggesting that trans women were raped in prison. But someone said that the trans person was raped repeatedly, and he just laughed at it.
Yeah.
Because man is just a genuine monster.
Yeah. So, like, yeah. I don't know what else to tell you, really.
Let's then talk about the local elections. And the Lib Dems for years have had a reputation of being, you know, good pavement pounders and door knockers. What's your ambition for Thursday night this week? Do you think you could become the second biggest party in local government in terms of controlling town halls?
That would be mad, considering
that's
how fucked they were after the coalition years. To have bounced back as they have is pretty impressive, actually.
If they had 8 MPs in 2015.
Yeah,
8.
10 years ago, they were basically dead. But like Lazarus, they've risen and are now actually a powerful force. Bizarrely. They don't deserve to be, but they are.
Certainly possible. We're quite excited about our prospects next Thursday. We're finding on the doorsteps people liking what our local campaigners are saying. In the vast majority of the races, we're really fighting hard in places like Oxford and Cambridgeshire, Shropshire, Wiltshire, Gloucestershire, Devonshire, Devon, Cornwall, Hertfordshire.
Basically the places where no one fucking lives. We're campaigning really hard in cow fields.
We're campaigning really hard, and specifically cow fields, which we want to remain cow fields forever, with no development allowed on them whatsoever.
F beef PE. That works. I think that works.
Buckinghamshire and so on. It's a two-horse race between the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives. The Conservatives have been running most of these councils for a long time, and people remember how the national Conservative government let them down. They feel taken for granted by the local Conservatives, and they're turning to the Liberal Democrats. They like what we say. For example, you talk about pavement politics. They like our community-style politics, that we try to get things done with it.
What pavement? It's fucking Herefordshire. There's no fucking pavement. They've barely got electricity. What are you talking about?
Or anything in their local town or village. And you don't have to take my word for it. Kemi Badenoch was recently interviewed, and she says, oh, those Liberal Democrats, they're the sort of people who fix your church roof. They're liked by the community, but they're not on Twitter. And I think that says it all, actually. We do like fixing things, getting things done. We are from the local community.
If Kemi Badenoch is going to say that, if Kemi Badenoch is going to say that, then yeah, I would have fucking gone with that every day and go, yeah, Kemi Badenoch says we do things for our community and aren't busy being brain broken on the internet. And I'm like, yeah, correct. We are not. She is right.
Are you suggesting that people want to vote for politicians who will, like, fix their living conditions and not for people who, like, attack Doctor Who for no reason?
I might be suggesting that.
Wow, that is hot take from Navarra Media's resident communoid.
have seemed to have given up that space, haven't they? And
you
they're
do seem
arguing
to quite
about
like
the
being
meaning of
on
conservatism
TikTok,
on
Ed
Twitter.
Davey. I mean, we got used to your campaign stunts in the general election, and there's a whole new breed of Ed Davey does dad dancing on TikTok. I mean, you're trying to also raise very serious issues about the Trump trade deal. You're calling for a vote on that in Parliament. I'm not being rude about your dad dancing, but does it really help you look like a serious party?
Looks like Trump.
You're not adults in the room enough. You just interviewed the most adult in the room adult ever, and it was awful. He was atrociously bad. Like the one that I mean I mention it, but I like that Ed Davey does dumb shit. I think that's quite fun. That's fine. Like his policies are rubbish, but so's everyone else's. At least I can see the dickhead hobby horsing. Like that's vaguely human to me. Now what we need is Pat McFadden, like beat booping for half an hour and saying nothing.
Well, I'm glad you've been watching my TikTok feed, because if you go on that, you'll see a lot of my questions at Prime Minister's questions are on there. You'll see some of our policy proposals. You see our manifesto. You see lots of very serious things on our TikTok feed. But you're right, we've mixed them up with some fun things. And I've been poking a little fun at President Trump. And, you know, I think whether it's asking serious questions to the Prime Minister or poking fun at the current incumbent at the White House, I think the truth is he's a dangerous person in our world. That what he's doing with respect to trade across the world is threatening the global economy, our economy here in the...
Well, sort of, but he's already capitulated to China anyway. Like the trade war, he already lost.
Oh my God, yeah, like Scott Bessent admitting that their trade war with China was unsustainable. Oh, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss.
Like, I knew he was gonna lose because, like, it was unsustainable. But I expected it to roll into next year or something. Whereas now he's just like, no, actually, no, China, you can just have whatever you like. That's fine. No. Right? What the fuck?
Do nothing, win every time.
And the way he's behaved, at least hitherto, with respect to Russia and Ukraine, I think has shocked many people. You know, during the general election, I went through village after village, town after town. I kept seeing people with their Ukrainian flags, often with the Union Jack. Very patriotic, very much Britain behind Ukraine. And I believe we need to be. And when we have a president in the United States who has done something that no other president has done before and sort of taken a lot of that support away, we need to work with our European colleagues.
Here we go. Rejoin Europe. I know. Hello there, Story Girl. Everyone go and follow Story Girl immediately.
We need European cooperation, build up our defences on the continent so we can repel people like President Putin.
But just briefly, Davey, when it comes though to another aspect of the relationship with America, Europe be pushing the government to give a vote in Parliament if there is such a thing emerges as a trade deal with the United States. But isn't the reality that there has to be compromise in order to get a deal that might benefit our economy when it really needs it?
Well, let's see what the compromises are that the government proposes. I mean, one of the reasons we're calling for a vote in Parliament is because it would give that greater scrutiny. What deals have the government done on farming? Because we want to protect British farmers from inferior products from the United States. What have they done on online safety for children? What have they done to our NHS? They're allowing a big American private health companies in. So we need to scrutinise that to find out what the government's done. And do you know what? Labour...
Ed, are you saying that extra private involvement in the NHS is bad?
Well, I don't think he's... look, clearly he would never support privatisation of national infrastructure. The former post office minister. No.
During the coalition government when Royal Mail was privatised.
Oh, yeah, no, I forgot about that. Yeah, no, he's a dickhead. Yeah.
He used to support this. We have an Earth Day policy paper, just 2021, just 3 years ago, where the Labour Party then was saying any government on trade negotiations should be really clear with Parliament, giving the information in advance of the negotiations, and then a vote on the final and debate on the final outcome of the trade negotiations. So we're just saying...
But that was when Keir Starmer wanted your votes.
We're going to be laying a bill in Parliament next week, which is basically going to enshrine, or try to enshrine in law, what Labour said they wanted to do when it came to negotiations on trade and a trade agreement. I think the British people would expect there to be a vote in Parliament, and so we're going to take Labour for their word. Are they going to allow the elected representatives to look at the compromises that the government are putting forward and work out what it's actually in the interests of our country?
OK, we will see what happens on that front, as so many other fronts said. David, thanks very much for your time this morning in the closing days of yet another election campaign. I'm sure we'll talk to you soon. Thanks very much indeed for your time. Now then, you three have been patiently listening as we've been talking to Pat McFadden and Ed Davey. Carla, then let's talk about your party's position on some of these issues. And let's start with trans rights. Now, what is the Green Party's response to this guidance that we've had from the Equalities Commission in the last couple of days, which, you know, Pat McFadden says it's brought clarity. This is what everyone's going to have to do now. What do you make of that?
We're really worried that the guidance from the EHRC has been rushed, clearly. It's been ill thought out, in my opinion, and it's really obvious that they have not listened to trans people, possibly not consulted them at all in the preparation of this guidance. Well, I think it's quite clear that it will create the risk of discrimination, direct and indirect, against trans people, especially in workplaces. I think it has the potential to create some unintended consequences, as Ed Davey was saying. I think it hasn't considered the consequences of what happens if you say to trans people that they are not allowed to go to the toilet in their gender or in their birth sex. Well, and almost as an afterthought, the guidance says, but they shouldn't be left with nowhere to go. But there's no suggestion of how that's going to be resolved.
So what do you want to see happen then?
Well, it is obviously early days. It only came out on Friday night. I have already been and will continue to be liaising closely with human rights and LGBT organisations to get their expert advice. But I won't hesitate to push for changes in legislation if it becomes apparent that that's necessary. And now, I'm not a legal expert, but I think it may be necessary because it does seem to leave some big gaps. And it seems to fly in the face of the
What?
I'm quiet.
What was that chanting?
Not chanting.
Someone was... I'm not going mad, am I, chat? Did you hear chanting? There was like a weird... It sounded like you were doing a fucking religious ritual thing or something. Have I gone... I'm not here. Am I hearing things? Yeah, they all heard it as well. What the fuck?
My chat has no idea what you're talking about.
I heard off key. Off key singing, yeah. There was like some fucking weird noise coming through. What were you... Stop fucking... I know because you're laughing. What did you do?
I'm confused. What the hell are you talking about?
Shut the fuck up. Shut up. You obviously were singing or something. It was weird.
What are you talking about?
Alright.
If your chat's heard it, then there must be something going on, but I genuinely have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, I've only got this window open, so it literally can't have been anything else. There was like some weird... Like, I'll clip it. Someone clip that and I'll send it to you later. I swear to God, there was some like... It sounded like some monk chanting or some shit. Like, oh, da, 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 da. Like, it was fucking mental.
My chat is telling me that they can't hear anything. I'm so confused.
Okay, well, we'll see. Maybe I'm just gone mad. I don't know.
Position of tolerance we have in Britain. For example, the EHRC guidance seems to be saying that if a lesbian association or venue wants to be inclusive, wants to include trans women, and let's bear in mind that lesbian women, non-trans lesbian women are amongst the most supportive of trans people in the whole of society. So quite a lot of lesbian LGBT organisations are going to want to include trans people. The rulings, the advice, seems to say that they won't be allowed to.
So would you like the guidance to be withdrawn and then we'll...
Yes, exactly. The Greens are calling for the guidance to be withdrawn. It's clearly rushed and ill thought out, and they haven't consulted all the people who'd be affected. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Like, Mr. Ramsey, this is how you lead a thing, dickhead.
A politician on a political show on the BBC has made a normative position.
Good Lord.
She stated, yes, I believe this. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. You can't have beliefs. That's student politics.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Someone's clipped it.
Fly in the face of
Right.
Hang on.
the
Yeah, there is. There's definitely something. Oh, okay, right.
But play it, share it.
Yeah, no, I'll share it. Right, okay. So, there was some weird chanting going on. I've not heard it right. Hang on, right. So. What?
So I'm quiet. Where does that come from?
What's that chanting?
Not chanting.
Did you not hear that at the start?
I hear the chanting, but where the fuck has that come from?
I don't know. I wasn't. I've not got any other windows open, so it can't have been. That's weird. Have I got
nothing on.
is there
Literally
somebody in my
nothing
fucking-
on our stream. Nothing
Oh,
on our
that's
stream at all.
mental. Oh no, I'm scared now. Is it a ghost? Have I got ghosts in my fucking house? Oh no. Oh, I don't fucking know what that was. Anyway.
The ghost of the Pope.
True.
We're saying withdraw it, think again, consult everyone who'd be affected by this guidance, and then come out with something more thought out.
Okay, let's then talk about the local elections. So the Greens, you had big success in the general election. You increased your number of MPs. You've been polling better since you've got into Parliament. What do you hope to achieve on Thursday?
That's right, and the context is actually that the Greens have been growing in the local elections steadily. We are the only party in the UK who's increased our number of councillors every single year for the last 7 years, and I'm pretty confident that this is going to be the 8th. Not to take votes for granted, but having been out, as you would expect, all over the country speaking to voters, people are feeling so let down by not only the Conservatives after their 14 years in government, but also by this.
Fuck off. Look, I'm worried about ghosts. You didn't need to play the fucking thing then. Scary noises. Eat my dick.
Labour government who promise change and are really actually in power only offering tinkering around the edges. And so I think there's a big appetite for sending Labour and Conservatives a message. And while some people are looking at reform for that, a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't just want to vote for division and rhetoric. I want to vote for some hard-working local Green councillors who are actually going to fix things.
I mean, Andy, it does look like a very complicated picture.
The rats of Birmingham have learned to sing. Fuck off.
They've mutated.
True.
I mean, it does look, we're hearing the word fragmentation is sort of all the rage. What kind of set of elections do you think this will be?
Well, they're clearly going to be difficult, as Pat McFadden said, but he's right. This government's only 10 months in. I think people forget that at times. Already, NHS waiting lists are moving in the right direction. I know how big a challenge that is from my role as Health Secretary. They've renationalised the railways. A lot of governments should have done that. This one has done that. But they'll be difficult. But what I would say to people getting ready to vote is it's hard to judge on what mayors have done, Labour mayors have done, and there's 4 mayoral races.
What?
I would say, if you look at the
I'm
evidence,
quiet.
we have put public transport back under public control, created an entire...
What? Did you say something?
No?
Oh, okay. Oh, fucking hell. I'm second guessing myself now.
New public transport system in Greater Manchester, and Labour mayors are reducing the cost
I'm
of
quiet.
transport. We've also given the north of England a bigger voice. Ben may have helped a little bit as well, but Labour mayors have really done that, working together. And we will be presenting new analysis actually next week, the Northern Arc, which is about Liverpool Airport, Warrington, Manchester Airport, Manchester, then into Leeds, Sheffield, Hull, where there's a mayoral race.
One sec.
We have new...
Elvendry asks, English Rail has been nationalised. Not yet. The bill, which is the precursor to the nationalisation, has been passed by Parliament. But essentially what the bill says is that once the existing franchise agreements for the train operating companies are up for renewal, they will get subsumed by the operator of last resort. What is called GB Railways, this new thing that's part of the was part of the Shapps Phillips Rail Review under the Tories, that's been rejigged by the Labour government to then bring all of the TOCs as they contracts expire to be brought into public ownership, okay? But this is just the train operating companies, the people who deal with the actual kind of facilitating the running of the services. The rolling stock is remaining in private hands, and that means that each train operating company will individually get nationalised as and when the contracts expire. So no, most English operators are still in private ownership at time of recording. Apart from LNER,
I'm not a
there's
legal expert,
Keolis
but
Amy
I
Wales
think
got
it may
nationalised
be
recently,
necessary.
and there's a couple more like Northern, I think, as well. So there's a few that got nationalised by the Tories, a couple that have been nationalised as the contracts have expired, but most of them will have to wait until those existing contracts are about to expire before they become nationalised.
Yes. So it's sort of the shittiest way of doing a nationalisation, really.
And it's free. I mean, that's the thing. You don't have to pay any shareholders
that's
off,
true.
right?
That is true.
But it just shows you how stupid the system was to begin with in the first place. That we were allowing people to have like fucking contracts through the trains when we could have had one fucking national body coordinating and giving us integrated transport.
Get some help.
True. Private. Hang on 1 second. What a noise happened? What was the noise? What happened? Thank you, Trebor PD with 10 months, who just says boo and then ghost emoji. Thank you.
Thank you, Limey Redneck, for the membership.
Analysis that says that part of the country can deliver more growth, more new homes than the Oxford-Cambridge art that is often prioritised by Whitehall. So the north of England, if we really complete that sort of corridor of Northern Labour mayors speaking for the growth that we need, for the big infrastructure we need in the north, that could be a real game changer. And one last point to say quickly, the mayoral role, I don't know what Ben thinks about this, maybe we have a different view, but it doesn't suit divisive politics, in my view. The power of the mayor, the superpower of the mayor, is to bring people together from different backgrounds, public, private sector, community, organisations. You've got to be a unifying force, place first rather than party first. I would worry about those bringing divisive politics to the role.
It sounds a bit, though, like you're saying, like it would all be fine if everybody could just vote for Andy Burnham and people like you. I mean, that, you know, your party has been struggling.
The fact that he's putting himself out there so much lately, is he looking to do a Johnson, so to speak? Boris Johnson, that is. That like he's gone out and done a mayor thing and has like a track record, and now he wants to get back into national politics and become prime minister, maybe.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The problem, of course, is that he will never, ever, ever, ever get selected for a seat as an MP, because anyone in the Politburo would instantly block him from standing because they know he'd be a threat. Because they know he would try and usurp the leadership because, you know, Andy Burnham is popular and liked and relatable and charismatic. All the thing that Keir Starmer is not.
He's not electoral cancer.
Exactly.
Which instantly puts him above every single other viable candidate for that position. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe. We'll wait and see. And
that's the thing, you know, it's what Keir Starmer and Morgan McSweeney care about is access to power, which Andy Burnham would threaten, regardless of how nice he is or how good he is at politics. That is irrelevant to these people who are power mad.
Yes, absolutely.
Significantly.
Thank you for the 5 gifted, Andy.
There was a real plummet in its polling ratings, almost going pop as soon as they moved into number 10.
My point is, you're not voting for the government. You're voting for somebody in the mayoral races to lead your area, and the evidence is mayors, Labour mayors. But I do respect what Ben has achieved in the North East. You know, we take a place-first approach, not party-first. It's as much about the person and their values and their party that, you know, it's important when you get to that ballot box.
Well, Ben, but your party is looking
like it was amazed me when Ken Livingstone was mayor of London and was technically a member of the Labour Party, technically, and yet held none of the positions that the National Party did at all.
Until Jeremy Corbyn was leader.
Well, true, but then he wasn't mayor of London anymore. Like,
when
he was actually in power, and Blair was prime minister. Like they couldn't have been more opposite at all. Like in theory, they were part of the same party, but if you were voting either in a national election or a local election in London, very, very different set of things you were voting for there. Very different.
A pretty grim time on Thursday. Do you think their performance might lead to Kemi Badenoch actually being booted out?
Yes. The answer is yes. Because if there's one thing the Tories don't like, it's losers. They've shown that over the course of their history. They are the biggest backstabbing nest of viper scumfucks that have ever existed. And they have no, I think, instinct to change that ever. So as soon as she gets found out to be the electoral kryptonite that she is, she'll be done away with in favour of someone else who's also going to be unelectable, but is not her.
Yeah. They're absolutely ruthless. I mean, they may have someone who is reasonably electable. They might have James Cleverly or something like that, but
just their brand is gone. Like, he's not that charismatic. He's not even like Blair level charismatic or something. Like, he's his own weird little fucking thing, Like, and that's not going to be enough to turn it round when you've got Farage on one side. Okay, you got nothing on the other side, I suppose. But whatever. Like, it's not. Their brand is what's going to hold them below the waterline rather than who is leader particularly. You could fucking reincarnate the corpse of Churchill, and they're still not going to get elected. Actually,
no, I mean, to be fair,
as well, but
yes, if you animated the corpse of Churchill, he probably joined Reform UK.
Almost certainly, yeah, I imagine so. And he was, well, again, to show you what a ruthless bastards they are, as soon as they were voted out, he joined the Liberals, and then when they got voted out, he jumped back to the Tories. And he's like the biggest conservatoid hero ever. They're again, power-hungry fuckers, all of them.
Actually, I tell you what, I would revise my comment. I actually think that Churchill would probably stand as an independent, because one thing that I think Churchill would have a principle for is someone chatting shit about his achievements, which both the Tories and Reform UK are doing by undermining the European Convention on Human Rights, which Churchill helped fucking draft.
Well, Churchill, at the last few years of his life, literally argued in favour of a United States of Europe. Not an EU, not some, like, trade agreement, none of that shit. He was saying the only way to stop this war ever happening again is if we all just become one fucking country.
Yeah,
so
European federalism.
FBPE. Churchill for the Lib Dem.
Yeah, maybe it probably would have to be the Lib Dems, because the European Convention on Human Rights was helped drafted by European members, including Churchill, specifically to stop the spread of communism in Europe, right? Yeah. So the fact that right wingers are trying to undermine it is really funny.
True. Thank you, Story Girl, for gifting a couple of subs. Much love. And thank you, Wayward Historian, with 200 bitty bits. We're on level 2 of the hype train. So you know what? I'm going to finger the ghost of who's fucking singing a few minutes ago. I'm going to finger that ghost, who's by the nature of them being a ghost, is dead, and so it's fine.
I think it's interesting. I mean, listening to Pat, listening to Andy, you've got 10 months of a Labour government. I mean, 11 years into a Tory government in 2021, we were making significant gains, including the Hartlepool by-election, and it was the same day as our election in 2021. We were just talking about that. So I think the argument of being 10 months in isn't a great one, and using things like the NHS is a typical one for Labour going into an election, when you think, well, one of the reasons waiting times have come down is because the unions have stopped striking. That brings waiting down times quite a lot. I mean, I'm going to make sure
the unions have stopped striking. I wonder why.
Yeah, because they did a fucking deal with them. They negotiated with them, and they did a deal, so they went back to work. Yeah.
Yeah, like
crazy.
Whereas the Conservative government refused to negotiate or meet with them for 6 months. They weren't even striking. They just said, we might strike. Please come to the table. We don't want to strike. We don't want to be forced to strike. But if you don't come to the table and discuss it with us, we may have to take that action. This dynamic went on for 6 fucking months, and Steve Barclay didn't meet with them once at all in this period. And then after that, finally, well, we've given you 6 months to try and give us an offer. We are now striking.
Yeah, indeed. He offered France union with the UK after the fall of France in 1940. Well, that's a slightly different thing, but yes, that did technically happen as well. But like, Churchill literally went from like Portugal to Russia, everyone, one country, let's go. And everyone went, fuck off, mate. But that was his plan, so like he'd be, I think, pro-Europe or whatever.
I will make a prediction.
The Tory government managed to sort it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I accept all of that. I'm going to make a prediction in that I think it's going to be an extremely tough election for the Conservative Party. I think we are going to lose a lot of seats. We are also going to win some, though. I think I would predict that. I think Paul.
Well, yeah, you're going to win some. What kind of fucking prediction is that? Yeah, we are going to win some seats. Imagine if they won 0. What are you talking about? Fucking hell! What an empty freak.
A mayoral candidate in Cambridge and Peterborough is probably going to win. But I also think, and again, you should always judge yourself on your own performance rather than somebody else's, but relative to Labour, I actually think Labour will have a worse election than the Conservative Party. So if you take the 4 mayoral elections, for instance, they currently hold 2 of those, 2 are new. I'm confident that Labour are going to lose the 2 that they currently hold. And in places like Lincolnshire, we talk about British Steel in the last couple of weeks, right? Labour come in and say they've saved British Steel, even though they caused a large part of the mess.
But I know it's
literally. Hang on, so just let me make this point.
The mess was caused by a Tory government that privatised in the first place, and a Tory government that sold it to Jingye.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking, by all means, say the Labour Party's response is shit, because it is shit. They should just nationalise it and have done with it, right? But to try and say that this is their fault when it's literally entirely the Tories' fault is crazy.
Yeah. No, that's fucking mental. Yeah. Well, thank you, Surly Dave, for clipping it. No, I take it that MTG wasn't lying when they said they didn't hear the chanting.
My chat didn't hear it either.
Yeah, no, they've clipped it from your stream and put the links, and I accept that. That's fine. It's just weird.
Oh, right, okay.
One second, we got to. Why isn't it reading out the things tonight? Oh, my fucking. Anyway, thank you, Story Girl, who says, "Oh no, Lord, there's no more. Where this come from? Let the good times flow for those who can afford it." Don't know what that means, but thank you very much.
The government have kind of come in to say that they're the saviour of that area, and I think next week you're going to find most of those people are going to walk into a ballot box and put Labour in third place.
But many of them are going to go to Reform. They're not necessarily going to go to you. They're going to go to Reform. And you have raised concerns previously about Kemi Bade not spending too much time making speeches to think tanks, not doing enough to take on that threat. So I'll ask you again, do you think this time next week she's going to be safe in her job?
Yeah, people care about their jobs and not Doctor Who.
Or the Chagos Islands.
Or still going with the fucking Chagos Islands. Jesus.
Yeah, I do think she will be safe in her job. I think, coming off an historic defeat of what the worst election result for nearly 200 years, it has been tough because for the first time, I think ever, you've got another right of centre party who is eating away at that. Whereas if you go back years, it would allow a party to
take look for a pact, haven't you? I mean, what's happening to the Tory party here?
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't go for a pact.
Well, I thought you did.
No,
it sounded like you did. I mean, it feels like the Tory party just losing any sense. It's being dragged, isn't it? And it's losing any sense of itself.
The example I used was...
He's quite good. You got to say
yeah,
quite good.
Honestly, imagine how fucking annihilating the election would have been if Andy Burnham was Labour leader.
Yeah, exactly. Like just that simple little just make him squirm, make him look a wanker. Very simple.
Imagine Andy Burnham against fucking Kemi Badenoch at PMQs.
Yeah. Or imagine Andy Burnham versus what was her fucking name? The sword bitch.
Penny Mordaunt.
Penny Mordaunt, when she was going, £2,000 for you, £2,000, £2,000, that thing. You just go, you're fucking mental. What are you doing? No, what are you? You've lost the plot.
If at the next election there are a number of MPs in the Tory party and Reform that created a significant majority, then obviously there's going to be a conversation to form a coalition or some sort of pact.
So
realistically, the only chance of a majority at all, given the current state of things, would be some sort of Tory Reform coalition. Because if you look at all of the polling, and it's only probably in about a third of the polls that the mathematics even works out that they get to the 325 or 326 necessary for a majority. And that's given that, you're going to lose at least 10 MPs to rape accusations over the course of a parliament. So you'd need probably 336 really. That's the only chance there is, because in virtually none of the polls will a Labour coalition get you anywhere. Even if you throw the SNP in there, it's still not going to get you there.
No. Unless the thing is, I think there would. If I'm speaking completely neutrally, I think the easiest way the Tories and Reform have is essentially you could have localised area pacts, right, where Tories wouldn't be standing in the northeast, for example. What would be the fucking point in standing in the northeast or in Birmingham, the West Midlands, right? But what Reform doing standing in Newark? What's the point there?
Yeah.
It'd be so easy for them to be able to divide up certain areas of the country where they would have non-aggression pacts.
Yeah, I suppose so, but I think the Tories would find that quite difficult as a national party, as a genuinely national party, to give up parts of the country.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's entire swathes of the country you're just giving up on, which is more realistic, but it doesn't look good. You don't look like a party of government if you're not even standing in huge regions,
No, true.
About a coalition potentially
No,
in the
I'm not
general
talking.
election.
I'm talking about the practicalities of keeping Labour out of government, because we've seen what they've done in the last 10 months.
that
with the
means-
need
It's a
for that
terrible
type of
place for the
reform.
Conservative Party to find itself. You know,
I'm
the
not
party
saying-
of Michael
but again,
Heseltine,
I'm
Ken
not saying we
Clark.
get there.
And
I'm
it's
saying
just
that
sort of
if in that situation
jump
there's
into the
obviously going
tune
to be a
of
conversation over the
the
next
right-wing
over the
party.
next 3 years, Kemi and the Conservative Party have a huge amount to do to regain that trust. Put forward the Conservative argument so that people don't go to reform. I mean, the big thing about all of this, both the Conservative Party.
Yeah, brilliant plan. Again, they don't understand why they're despised, do they?
Yep.
They don't understand it at all.
Party and the Labour Party really need to get a grip of is that the realignment in British politics is real. You know, and the red wall, as of next week, I think is going to go significantly reform. If that doesn't send a clear signal to the Labour Party as well as the Conservative Party, then reform have a longer-term future. But there's still 3 years in which to battle that. As long as we can get ourselves right, we get our message right, and the Labour government stop creating the mess that it's creating in
But
government.
what about in your area? And Carlo, I'll bring you in just a sec. But what about in your area, Ben, where you've got a big mandate, you had a lot of popularity, you got your job very solidly, but just recently you've been given what's called a best value
He had a
notice.
big date with a man. A big mandate. A big mandate.
Right.
Come on now.
Which is where the government has said you're not spending money properly in your area. That's your record. You've been told you're not spending money properly. People not worried about that.
No, because actually this whole political saga played out in my last election. I got the third highest share of the vote of any mayor in the
But so
country.
it didn't matter
And the
that they
reason
were
that the
concerned
government
about
did that,
transparency
the
then?
reason the government did that.
It's okay
is they
that I'm
actually wanted to do
corrupt.
nothing,
It's
but they
fine.
had to do something, and so they did as little as possible without doing anything. Because you've got to remember, there are some Labour MPs who've been pretty vicious to me over the last 4 or 5 years, who've made some very outrageous statements that they refuse.
You sound very snowflakey now, Ben.
To back up, and there was a big political fight at the last election, which again played out in public, and the electorate said that they didn't believe the Labour Party, they believed me, and they delivered me with the third highest share of the vote.
Well,
now, interestingly, if you look at my area, we don't have local elections this year, but all of the polls would suggest that the whole of the Tees Valley area, which is one Conservative MP with the rest of Labour MPs, there would be no Labour MPs left in the Tees Valley.
Okay.
And if there was an election today, I'd put my mortgage on the fact that that would be.
That's fucking mental. Labour cannot win if that's true. If they lose
No, surely
those
not.
kind of industrial, post-industrial heartlands, they're dead.
Well, that's the thing, is that we kept being told that the red wall was lost because they would never accept Jeremy Corbyn. When the voting percentage for Labour went up massively in 2017, it was Brexit that broke it apart, right? Which of course is Keir Starmer's fault. He was the chief Remainer in the shadow cabinet at the time, and they didn't really increase their vote share in these seats that much at the last election. They stayed pretty stagnant while the Tories collapsed because of a vote split with Reform, and they never really got that many more votes than Corbyn anyway. And now, with Keir Starmer in actual government, it looks like they're going to be swept in the red wall.
Yeah.
So if anything, if we're going to look at the success of the Labour Party in the red wall, Jeremy Corbyn is just like 10 points more successful than Keir Starmer is.
But if Labour was led by anyone else, they'd be 20 points clear.
I mean, at this point, they'd be lucky to get 20 points fucking...
In total.
In total, yeah.
They're 20 points ahead of nothing.
True.
Okay, well, we will see. There's so much we could talk to about you, and Carla, we'll be back with you later. And I also want to tell people that we have managed to purloin some early snaps of all three of you on the campaign trail many years ago. So do stay tuned for that, because the pictures are quite incredible. And do go to the website if you want to find out if there are elections in your area. The full list of candidates, all the information is there for you on the BBC News website. Let's talk then straight away to Kevin Hollingrake, who's a member of Kemi Badenoch's shadow team, and put what Ben Houchen's been saying to him. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Ben Houchen's just told us that at some point before the general election, there might have to be a coalition between the Reform and the Conservative Party, if that's how...
Is he being interviewed in the long room at Lord's?
I don't think so, but it looks, similar decor, certainly.
Like, how antique is his living room?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those sorts of buildings in London, though, aren't there?
True.
Yeah. Hey, hello, Zakap. Everyone go and follow Zakap immediately.
Hey, everyone, please do follow Zakap.
Yeah. What's this say? Dear Santa, why do all my toys say made in China? I guess even you can't abstain from the allure of cheap labour. Oink, oink, you capitalist pig. Love, Josh. Fair dues. Not really relevant to anything, but also funny.
The seats stack up. Would you be up for that?
I don't, not at all. There'll be no pacts with reform. I mean, how can you have
Oh,
a
he's in
pact
North
with
Yorkshire.
a party that wants to nationalise
He's in the fucking long room at Headingley instead, is he?
large swathes of UK industry and wants to privatise the NHS? It seems to favour Vladimir Putin.
Hang on, whoa. Are you in favour of medicine Marxism? Why wouldn't you want to privatise? Look, you want to privatise everything else. What's wrong? Why don't you want to privatise healthcare? Is there something different about healthcare as opposed to trains or energy or anything?
Literally, Kevin Hollerich has come out today as a proud healthcare communist.
Nice, good to see. Good to see.
over Ukraine. You know, thinks it says it's Ukraine's fault that Russia invaded it. There are some real differences between us. Reform exists because of mistakes we made previously. What we need to do is correct those mistakes, show people that we're going to get it right this time on immigration. We had many successes over the last 14 years, but we did get some things wrong. We need to show people...
No, what successes did you have? You did all of the racism without actually tackling immigration at all. You just did racism and then welcomed in ridiculous numbers of people because you want cheap labour.
And on top of this, caused the biggest drop in living standards since the Napoleonic Wars.
True, we didn't even get to kill loads of French people. Oh.
Like, at no point, every single time, the Tory is interviewed about their failure and the fact they're not capitalising on Labour's low approval rating and the fact they're dropping at the expense of reform, right? At no point in any post-mortem of their position does any Conservative talk about the biggest drop in living standards since the Napoleonic Wars or the state of the NHS. Never. Never. They don't.
Because rich people did really well, and that's all they care about.
Yeah. Like, it's literally, these are the two things that people care about. And as you say, no one in the Conservative Party is at the sharp end of any of these issues or has ever been at the sharp end of any of these issues, so they can give a shit.
Yeah.
People that will get it right this time, and the policies you'll see coming forward from Kemi Badenoch will be proper Conservative policies. I worked for Kemi for 18 months in the Department of Business and Trade. I've never ever seen her say one thing and do another. She does what she says she's going to do.
But have you got...
Right, but the things she says are fucking mental. Like, she's not right about anything.
Time to do that? I mean, Ben Houch has just been telling us that the reform vote is real. They might have a long-term future. We'll see that this week.
Yeah, thanks
if
for
the
that,
Conservatives
Ben.
are
Insight.
consistently coming behind reform, isn't there an inevitable logic that you either split the vote on the right or you come together in some way or another and then you actually have a chance at power again? You might be the junior partner.
Well, I don't see it like that. The polls today are not the polls that will be in 2029. We know that, all that for certain. And I understand why people are voting reform. It's a protest vote right now. And even Rupert...
I mean, he isn't wrong. The polls in 2029 will not be the same as now. Because the Tories will be on like 15%.
Yeah. It's very possible the Greens will have overtaken you, friend.
Literally, or put the Dems and the Greens. Like, why would anybody who believes themselves to be right of centre vote for the Conservative Party over Reform UK? Why?
You wouldn't. There's no reason to, ever. Like, they've
All the
consistently told you they will do the right wing thing, the old school Conservative thing, and then not done that because they're just neoliberals.
Yeah, and just in general, they continually were people who ruined people's material conditions. They just couldn't be trusted on the economy, in any sense of the word. Like, all they did was fuck shit up from the entirety of the time they've been in government, you know?
Yeah.
Although a senior figure in Reform said that the party is a party of protest. I understand why they're doing that. What we need to do is get things right. It will take time to do that. There is no doubt this Thursday will be a difficult night for us in terms of seats. But remember what people are voting for this Thursday. They're not voting for the next few weeks. They're voting for a councillor who's going to represent them over the next 4 years. And mayors, indeed. We've got some fantastic candidates. Be it Anne Hanley in Hull and East Yorkshire, Rob Waltham in Greater Lincolnshire, Paul Bristow in Cambridge and Peterborough, or you've got Steve Smith, West of England. All these people are proven leaders in their local areas.
What, Steve Smith, the ball tamperer? Surely not. Who let him in? Outrageous.
Proven track record of delivery. What we're talking about here is better services. We provide better services at lower cost. Those are the pure facts. That's what people should vote for.
Well, I will remind people
you want
that
to ask the residents of
candidates' names
Thurrock?
are all
Yo, sorry?
I mean, is that really the case that you provide a better service? Should we ask the residents of Thurrock or of Maidenhead, potentially?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what the fuck is he talking about?
on the website for them. We're not into people reading out lists of the person who's standing for their particular party. But isn't the point here that Kemi Badenoch... I'm sure you knew it in your...
Fuck off. You definitely read it. And that, like, I don't mind that. Like, that's politics. That's politics, baby. I don't give a fuck about that. But don't pretend like you know any of those people. Oh, yeah, I definitely know the bloke from, like, fucking Paynton in Devon who's running for the West of England. Shut up.
But the list is there for people to see if they want. But in terms of your performance, if, as seems very likely, and you've been busy managing expectations,
you're going to get shat on.
Kemi Badenoch herself has said nowhere is safe. So if, as appears very likely,
yeah, but I think she was just talking about crime.
There are situations around the country where Conservative councils lose their majority and they might be able to run things with the help of reform. Would you, as part of the party leadership, say to them, don't do that? Would you forbid Conservatives from working with reform?
Well, we'll issue guidance to local councils. I personally think it would be a mistake to form a coalition with the reform, but you know, I think there are ways of working together on a vote-by-vote basis to make sure you can deliver the agenda of a proper Conservative agenda in those local areas.
So he's basically hedging his bets. Splinters in his arse again. Brilliant.
That's what we want to do. The focus right now is winning every single vote, convincing people, showing people we have changed, we've got some things wrong, but in general we deliver far better services at lower cost than any other party. That's what people are voting for. That's our focus right now, not what happens after the 1st of May, how people vote on the 1st of May.
But in a specific case where there is no one party with an overall majority, you would not forbid Conservatives from working alongside reform councillors in order to get things done. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Well, the most important thing is getting things done. That's why we all enter politics, to get things done. Of course, you've got to prioritise the needs of local people. And we respect the right of local leaders to make those kind of decisions. But as I say, there'll be no pact with reform. That has been completely ruled out by Kemi Badenoch, quite rightly too. They are a different party to us. They're not a Conservative party. They have some very radical views, I think, which I think when people dig beneath the surface, we realise are not consistent with the kind of Conservative values we have. We have strong Conservative values. We've got a strong...
Why does he think that this is like getting people away from voting for the reform? Well, they are radical politics. Yeah, like the country's totally fucked up. Everyone says the country is broken. Of course they're going to try something radical. Why are you trying to market yourself as a continuation of the status quo, which has failed fucking everyone?
Exactly. Like, when was the last time we even had a status quo election? Like, if you just... It was the same with Brexit. They haven't learned their lesson at all. If you sell people the idea of the status quo who've got no skin in the game because the status quo offers them nothing, and then you say, those guys over there, they're going to do something different. Okay, then, I'll go with them. Because you're offering me fuck all, whereas at least they're offering me a mystery box. Do you know what I mean? Like, there might be nothing 100%. In the mystery box, but at least there's a fucking mystery box. When you offer me literally nothing, then you offer me no reason to ever vote for you. And it's the same with Labour. No left-wing person has any reason to ever vote for them, and no right-wing person has any reason to vote for the Tories. They're two failed, clapped-out, tired parties that need to fuck off forever.
And could not put it better myself.
Conservative leader who is bringing those values back to this party. I think over time, and it will take time, people will see that and will decide that the Conservative leader is the right person to lead this party and will bring forward this proper Conservative values and policies.
But it doesn't seem that strong when Kemi Badenoch has been saying there won't be pacts, there won't be coalitions at a national level, and yet Ben Houchen and Robert Jenrick recorded suggesting something similar. Esther McVeigh, another prominent Conservative, has been heard saying something similar. But people will have heard your answer to that. I just want to finally ask you, we know you're a bit of a betting man. You had a flutter on the general election, as I understand.
Am I vote? Hang on. Okay, I think she might be having a little dig, because are there criminal prosecutions against some of them that were involved in that now?
Yes, but Craig Williams, the one from Monmouth.
Yeah. Cather asks, so you voting Labour, ? Unfortunately, I don't get to vote this year. Because Birmingham's so poor,
I do.
We don't even get we used to have elections 3 out of 4 years. And now we just have one all-out election every 4 years. Because we're
you're
so
poor. You're stuck with the cat rats.
With the cat rats and the rat cats. And you know what? If the Rat Coalition got themselves together, they could win a sizable portion of the council house. Because the humans are not doing a fucking great job right now. But you know what? We've tried human governance. Let's try a different species. Okay, let's stick within the mammal family range, but we'll go with rats for now.
Understand it. Not one of the people, I should say, who got into trouble for that, but you had a flutter on the result. Would you bet your mortgage on Kemi Badenoch still being the leader at the time of the next general election?
Yes.
Very clear answer. Kevin Hollenrake, thank you very much indeed for being with us this morning. It's good to
Yeah,
have
but
you
it's a
with us.
very clear lie. Like, just saying the clear answer. Like, what the fuck?
100%. She's no way she makes it to the next election.
Not
literally
a chance.
0%.
No, not a chance. I'm genuinely, I don't think Keir Starmer does. I think if the polling continues to continue to go down, like you say, then they're going to be struggling to scrape 20% soon.
Yeah, it'll be streeting Jenrick and Farage.
Oh God! Oh, mediocre white men everywhere. Oh,
Just genuinely the fucking absolute fucking nightmare blunt rotation.
the dregs of humanity. Brilliant.
On the programme from North Yorkshire, God's own county. Thank you. Now, we've heard from a pair of mayors and a pair of leaders now today. Now, time for a pair of stars. Martin Freeman has been Watson.
Absolutely not. No. Do they go? But they go back to the Tiny Green Queen. Okay, fair enough. Oh, hang on. Ooh. Yeah.
And The Fifth Step by David Ireland will open at London's Soho Place Theatre on the 12th of May. It was a pleasure to meet that
So that's
pair.
just an advertisement
Now,
for a
let's then
fucking
get
play.
back to the business of elections. And as promised, I can reveal to you the young campaigning antics of our team at the desk today. Let's have a look at a young Carla Denyer there on the campaign trail back in 2019, I think.
Hasn't aged a fucking day. Jesus. No, she's looking
So,
good.
like, it turns out, right, hate ages you.
True. True. You know Nigel Farage, he's only 26. Mad.
Thank you
And
for the
then a
4.99,
young-
Jack, by the way. You have to prioritise the needs of local people. At what point did people in the 2010s actually want austerity? Very true.
Well, when they said local people, they meant local to Knightsbridge.
True.
Ben Houchen, now a member of the House of Lords. There he is, pounding the pavements, and I'm trying to spot who else might be there. I think that was Chris Heaton-Harris next to him, who ended up being a member of the cabinet, and a young Andy Burnham. There we are. With
Oh!
glasses and
What the fuck is that? Oh, Twink Deatharama. Oh, no.
a bob. Do we call that a bob, Andy? I'm not sure. You're very generous, all three of you, for sharing those campaigning pictures for us. Because being on the campaign, I mean, it's hard yards for people who do it as a living. And this time, particularly, as we've been touching on, there's something really interesting going on in British politics. A lot of learned columnists and experts would say this sort of fragmentation. Do you think it's permanent?
There are no learned columnists. You're all London wankers. Shut the fuck up. You're all fucking Westminster bubble wankers. You all go to the same dinner parties. I saw fucking Rory Stewart wanking on about trans rights, and I just thought, who the fuck are you to even talk about this? You and your fucking war criminal friend on your podcast. Fuck off.
Carlo.
I think that the era of two-party politics is over. I think the writing's been on the wall for a while, and we're really seeing that in this election. I mean, we saw John Curtis's bar chart earlier. where 5 parties have all got significant bars in that graph. If that's not an argument for proportional representation, I don't know what is, because we're facing a situation where in the next general election, the winner, the government, could have less than 30% of the public support.
But haven't we heard it before? I mean, Andy, I remember there have been plenty of occasions, you know, around the coalition time, then also when the SNP was incredibly strong in Scotland, oh, two-party politics is dead, and then you get near a general election and suddenly people swarm back to the two tribes. But maybe you two shouldn't be sitting comfortably.
Except, hang on a minute.
I think there's a degree of that.
That didn't happen in 2024. We had the biggest majority off the lowest vote ever in British political history.
Yeah,
right?
mad.
The only time, literally the only election where this trend has reversed in the last 15 years was 2017. That's literally it, the only time. And that wasn't even a Brexit election. Like, Brexit was kind of suspiciously absent about this. It was about cost of living and austerity and an opposition to it, you know? And this was the one time where two-party politics came back. Every single other election, the Conservative and Labour combined vote share has been lower than the last one, apart from 2017.
Yeah.
So this idea that somehow we'll all just coalesce again, that just isn't true. Two-party politics has been on the wane again, basically since 2010, since 2005, really.
The learned columnists have been trying their damnedest to make sure that it does come back, because that's what they want, right? They want the sensible adults in the room, two-party, same fucking policies from both of them, regardless.
Well, it's easier to have access. It's easier to have access if you have just 2 parties you need to be able to have in contact with, rather than 5.
Yeah, true.
Splintering that Carla's talking about. But I do feel the public are fed up with politics as usual. And this is why I come back to the mayoral role and the mayoral races.
I knew you were going to say that.
But it's important because it adds a different dimension. It's a different thing. And it has allowed Westminster, people to challenge Westminster more, and we've done a lot of that, haven't we? And actually line up together a bit more. And people like to see that as well. So I do feel that's kind of a good thing. And the north of England, by May next year, will have full devolution. It'll have mayors everywhere. So that,
yes,
I think,
Northern
is,
Independence.
A positive change. And I think we need to sort of really, the message is to the government, really back this now, this change. Give more agency to people at a local level. Fund local government properly is another part of this. But we'll present this.
Yeah, stares inquisitively in Bromé. Is all I'm going to say there. As I drown in rubbish.
New analysis to the Treasury and to the Business and Trade Select Committee this week. It's time to back devolution properly.
But politics is still a big ecosystem, and there are, Ben, there are always whispers about somebody still young who's reached a big, powerful position at a relatively young age, and there are always whispers about whether or not you'd fancy a tilt at the House of Commons, so you give up your perch in the House of Lords and maybe have a go at the Richmond seat, which is Rishi Sunak's at the moment. I just wonder if you want to take this opportunity to tell people if you were interested or not in doing that.
No, I don't think Rishi's going anywhere anytime soon. But just if I can add to Andy's point, I think what's happening when you talk about the splintering of the vote is a bit Brexit 2.0 to me. I think people don't like what the government has done, whether that's winter fuel benefits, etc., etc. They still haven't forgiven us over the last 3 or 4 years for what we did, and Kemi's trying to turn that around, but hasn't quite done that yet.
Yep.
And I think people in parts of the red wall want to break the system again.
You what, sorry?
He's not wrong. He's literally everything he's saying here is 100% correct. Like, Kemi hasn't fixed all of the problems. No one's forgiven you for the time that you in government. Interesting though, he doesn't talk about the things that they did in government people don't like, because all people are angry with Labour over the winter fuel payment means test. I'm like, so cutting benefits is bad. Do you want to admit it was bad when you did it?
No, when we did it, it was
you
good.
also cut benefits.
No, it was good. It's good when we did them aside.
Well, that's the thing, of course, is that when they took benefits away, it was from the poor and the disabled and the young, who are not politically relevant. Whereas when Labour did it, it was to the elderly. And of course, they are the only demographic that matter because they vote Tory.
Yeah, literally.
And every
they'll look towards reform in other parties to try and send a signal that the system's not working for them, and therefore they want to change.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating few days. I'm afraid we must leave it there, but I'm sure we'll be
Tony
speaking to
Green
all 3 of you again.
She spoke
very
for
soon.
fucking
Thank you to all of
3
our guests today.
seconds.
Yeah,
she said
mad.
about fucking 5 sentences the whole show.
Mad.
Thank you to you most of all for watching.
Yeah, fuck off. Are we done? Yeah, it's done.
Literally it. Jesus, that was pathetic.
That was bad. I think she spoke okay. She set out an actual policy position, which for a politician on Laura Koonsberg's show is rare. And as I pointed out, fucking Ramsey can do one. If TERFs are welcome in your party, I don't want to vote for you, mate. Whereas she spoke well, I think. That's
I'm sorry?
what I think Carla Dinia spoke relatively well on trans issues in that, and set out a different position, which is good. But yeah, it's all very fucking grim.
I mean, she could have been a bit more forceful, but broadly, she made the points that were relevant, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, like there's lots of things I'd like politicians to do, but I can live with that. But fucking what your man said, no, that's not acceptable. Okay. Should we kick people over somewhere? Because it is midnight.
Yeah. There's no one I can find on YouTube who's live, but maybe like Rhizome on Twitch.
Hang on, let's have a look on the YouTubes. Oh, some random geek is going on YouTube, so I'll send it over there.
I will find some random geek and also send them there as well. Who are they?
They're awesome. They're an awesome, I think trans or possibly non-binary or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, streamer who does very niche gaming streams and things, and they're very good.
What's their channel called? Is it Some Random Geek, all one word?
Some Random Geek with 2 3s instead of E's.
Aha, so I see.
There you go. And they're good people. Go and check them out. I might put up the weird chanting as a short on YouTube. Why not?
Okay. Where are you going on Twitch?
Rhizome, did you say?
Yeah, let's go Rhizome. Perfect.
Okie doke.
Alright, everyone go follow KF Logan 1875 over on Twitch. Not KF Logan 1875 on Twitter. Do it.
Everyone go and follow No Justice MTG on all of the fucking platforms.
And take care and stay safe and free Palestine from the river to the sea as well.
Indeed so. Bye.
Bye.
Like best